on DC, and we'll shortly be going live on YouTube. So please call in all your YouTube friends. Please remember to subscribe to both Facebook and YouTube. And we're also now on Instagram and TikTok. We're also taking live calls tonight. Again, the number is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Again, the number is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Now, across diaspora timelines, the dream is still alive. Sunsets, relocation posts, and bold declarations about finally moving back after years of grinding abroad. But once on the ground, a different set of questions emerge. What does working remote on US time really feel like? Does your American experience truly translate in local spaces? And how do relationships, identity, and even expectations shift once you're no longer visiting? Joining us once again to unpack the deeper realities, reactions, and uncomfortable truths coming out of part one is Ruth Kilungu. She spent 2025 living and working in Kenya after more than 20 years in the US. And tonight, she helps us go beyond the dream into what it actually takes to sustain that move. So start dropping your comments below and let us know where you're tuned in from, what city, what state, what country. Na bila kusahau, napokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari, mleta habari DJ Moshfire, na tunadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Ojes yake nambari 7 mgongoni akiletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Wakwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mnite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, this hour there's not going to be a lot of politics, but we're picking up from part 1 2 weeks ago. And we're going deeper into realities of moving back to Kenya, from the belief that life is cheaper if you earn in dollars, to whether your American experience truly translates on the ground, and what it actually takes to sustain a life working remote from Kenya. Ruth Kilungu, who spent 2025 living and working in Kenya after more than 20 years in the US, joins us once again to break down what's true, what's exaggerated, and what many diasporans only discover after making the move. So please drop a comment and tell us what city, what country, what state you're tuned in from. The number is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Again, the number is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. I can see Starly Key is already tuned in. Asante sana, Starly Key. Please drop in the comments. Start asking your questions right now, because the last episode was fire and very many people were tuned in. Very many people tuned in after, and there were many questions coming in. But we're going to get started right away. And we know that last week we opened a conversation that sparked a lot of reflection across the diaspora. And tonight we are building on part 1 and taking it a step further. Because beyond excitement of moving back home, there's the day-to-day reality that begins to set in once you're actually living in Kenya. This hour will go into what it really looks like, from working remotely across time zones to how the American experience is received on the ground, to the shifts in friendship, identity, and expectations that many don't anticipate. And the big question tonight is, what happens when the life you planned for back home doesn't quite match the life you actually experience once you're living it? Joining us again is Ruth Kilungu. She spent 2025 living and working in Kenya after more than 20 years in the US. She's back to respond to the reactions from part 1 while unpacking even more of what diasporans tend to overlook. So whether you caught last week's episode or you're just joining us now, please settle in and let us know where you're tuned in from, because this is where the conversation will get even more real. So without much further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ruth by typing Karibu Sana in the comment section. Ruth, of course, is back from the episode 2 weeks ago. She's been a long-time fan of the OneMic Show, a guest host, and that missing female voice at Kilimanjaro Studios. Ruth, Karibu Sana. It's great having you again. How are you feeling?
I am feeling good, and thank you so much. I'm feeling good. Last week we had no, 2 weeks ago actually. It feels like just last week. There's been a lot of engagement around it, so it feels like it just happened the other day. And oh wow, not only were the comment section on YouTube alive, and Facebook when we had the show. But my phone has been buzzing.
It's been trending.
It's been my phone has been buzzing a bit. So there's a lot to unpack. Reactions from that show. Honestly, I think the reactions enough, or just people reflecting on it, would be a show by itself. But there are just so much more. There's just so much more to talk about.
Did you expect that, or what was it as far as the reactions were concerned that maybe was a bit unexpected for you?
I mean, just the engagement to begin with, which means it's a very relevant topic.
Okay.
It's something people are interested in. But I also will say this is something that people in Kenya are also interested in. Before I even go further, my own family, I think we had some good conversations around, they're just reflecting on my stay there and
get to the family. But just as we get warmed us, remind us in a brief minute just one thing that hits diasporans the hardest that nobody understands till they move. Just one quick thing.
Integration.
Okay.
Getting into the groove of things, merging what you come thinking it will be and what it actually is.
Okay.
The day to day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Now, before we get to that point where we want to get started, how do I put this? I'm not sure how to put this question. The reactions that you got following the episode we did 2 weeks ago, which one surprised you the most?
Wow. I think some people had a different way of looking at things. It's not surprising, actually. I think it's just understanding. I actually left with this understanding that, my experience, though not unique to me, it's not the only one.
Okay.
There are other people who experience returning to Kenya differently.
Okay, so there's different experiences. There's not one experience.
For
returnees.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's not unique to me.
Okay.
I'm sure other people do feel the same, but there are other experiences out there.
All right, good. And if you've had any other experiences, feel free to type in the comment section. I can see Pablo is already tuned in. Anasema, hi Ruth, hi OneMic Show, locked in for part 2. Asante sana Pablo. That is good. And now I want to come to introducing the panel. I'm going to start with DJ Omoshfire right beside me. Now, real quick, DJ Omoshfire, one thing that you picked up from last week from Ruth that you never thought about. DJ Omoshfire.
I don't know if I can narrow in on one thing, but let me say hello to our guests and Karibu Ruth. Welcome back.
Thank
I
you.
guess for me, it's just the sheer expense, being that she was earning in dollars but living in shillings, but it was still expensive. At least that's what I picked up from just having, from that conversation.
Okay. So it wasn't that myth of you earn in dollars, things are going to be cheaper, was kind of slowly being demystified. It's not as cheap as a lot of diasporans think.
Well, if you're looking at Passport Bros, you know that living by the dollar, umeshinda.
Yes.
So now Ruth is coming.
You cannot compare Passport Bros with living in Kenya with family. With friends, I think they have that removed, but we'll get to that.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
But yeah,
all right.
This is where part 2 comes in.
Yes,
this is where part 2 comes in. Yeah. Then I want to go to Mika Och, who's working remotely. Kama kawaida, we're going to be talking about working remotely tonight. Mika, give me one thing you picked up from last week's episode that you just never thought about, despite all the conversations we've had about going back, you just never thought about this. Mika Och, twende kazi.
Anyway, first of all, let me say good evening and happy Friday to our listeners. Thank you for joining in, and thank you, Ruth, for gracing us with your presence today. From the previous show, and one of the things that I picked up and even afterwards, when you went through the comments and you saw how people were interacting after watching the show later on, is that the one thing that stood out was the lack of preparedness that most people actually have prepared on how, when they want to move back, or how they think they want their transition back, or how they think the transition back is going to be. So I like the callers who called in last week, and they actually opened eyes from different perspectives on how it is. And I wish that today we could get somebody to call it back successfully. Now to Amrivlali 5.
Okay, sawa sawa, asante sana. Mika was talking about the lack of preparation that some people go with and think that things will just work out because they are moving to Kenya. I want to come back to studio, and I'm gonna bring the same question to OneMic. One thing that you picked up from last week's episode that you never thought about, and Washeke is asking about not seeing Ruth. The Ruth will be on screen again shortly. So the one thing that you picked up from last week's episode that you did not anticipate, OneMic.
So I got a few calls after the show, and what was brought up was, for some people thought that we should have been more specific in addressing the matter. In this particular case, there's somebody who's working from Kenya, and then there's somebody who is retiring in Kenya.
Hopefully relocated.
Yeah.
Relocating. So relocating means you're moving back, you're chilling, you're retiring. But I guess moving back could also be taken that maybe umepata job and you're moving back.
Yeah.
Then after that, you're going to retire. So that was what was being hounded or was being hammered on. And I'm like, no. In as much as she was working in Kenya, which is fine, right? But I was being told then we have to address, I'm like, and we can address this by somebody who is retiring, who has retired in Kenya. But we're looking at living in Kenya as somebody who is, because when you're moving back, and maybe it's not moving back, but if you are in Kenya and you're working for a multinational or whatever it is, I think sometimes I got confused by that, but I was like, okay, we are looking at, we are diving into the weeds of something that
and of course we can interview
somebody
who has gone to Kenya to
so
retire.
what I was being told is,
Yeah.
but actually, and I was like, we address the issue of whether you're moving back, even if you're working in Kenya or you're retiring, at the end of the day, you have to be prepared.
Yes, preparation
is key, and this is what we are addressing. So I was, and actually the interesting thing was there was a clip of that issue being addressed on the show, and I'm like, we addressed it.
Okay.
But there's a part 2 coming on.
All right, yeah. And of course, sometimes people, some people would make comments without listening to the entire show. The entire show was, I think, about between 2.5 to 3 hours. Yeah.
It was more than 3 hours.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
more than 3 hours.
So that's, it would be good. The episode is still up there. I mean, after completing this episode, if you didn't watch that one, you can always go back and watch it.
But
again,
Ali, before you continue,
Sure.
I know you want to jump into something else.
Yes.
I think that also what happens with a lot of us and the people who listen is you take your own self and you become that person, and you now want to be given a manual of how you can go retire and go into society. So probably those are the folks who are reaching out to Uno. Whereas there could be some other people who want to know, how is it that I can just go and work in Kenya, and what do I need to know? Then there's the other ones who are saying, okay, you know what? I want to move to Kenya and work in Kenya, but not have a job overseas. So there are different categories the people who are returning. and they're in different stages, and it's hard for us to fit that all in from one person, because not every shoe has, everybody's shoe pinch is different.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to just, to kind of set the stage for that.
Yeah.
And then maybe, since now we're recognizing that there's those categories, then we can be looking for those folks who fit in those categories and bring them on so that they can lay it out to our audience.
Including categories of people with families who are going to be looking into schools and all
that's a whole other animal.
Yes.
And
Okay,
that
Ruth.
definitely needs to be like, you need to look at someone who has children moving to Kenya. I think you'd have, for people, which is the vast majority of diaspora have children, and they'd want to move to Kenya with their children if they're planning to do that. So it would be really nice if they got to hear somebody who has that lived experience. I think my experience will be, I will not, that's why I said it's not the only experience, right? I might not represent everybody, but I think that a lot of the things I went through, a lot of people do go through in this. Even if you're moving for retirement, if you're moving for, you got a job in Kenya and you just want to go live in Kenya and work in Kenya, or you're doing a stint like I did for a year or however long you're able to do that. There are things that I experience, I am sure everybody would. And it's more like, how do you prepare for that? And I think that's why I keep saying integration is a big one, because you approach life differently if you've lived here. And going back to Kenya, you're going back to a different system. And sometimes we make the mistake. I don't want to say it's a mistake really, but because we don't know better, we try to fit our experience, our system of thinking, our way of thinking into another way of thinking, another system of living, and assume that, okay, why can't you guys do this? Well, they do things differently. And I think it's kind of letting people know it will be different. You will try to make sense of things. Some things will make sense, some things will not make sense, just because you're trying to merge two ways of living together. And at any time you're doing that, there will be friction. And just be aware of that. I think that is the only part I'll say. The mutuality of all of our experiences is integration is going to be a bit of a challenge, and be prepared for it. You'll scratch your head so many times, so that is what I would say to that.
Yes, so I think the most important thing that you said, that be aware that there will be friction. It may be a different kind of friction from one person to another, but there will be friction, and preparation is key. However, this year is saying in 2025, Trump and his wig made sure preparation was not an option, whether as a prepared returnee, deportee, or unsure. I
agree.
Yeah.
Because you just up and leave like I did.
Preparation
itakuwa mbele.
Yes. So there are those who leave voluntarily, like you did, and then there are those who left involuntarily. Like one personality that we're looking for that might be very difficult to find is someone who was deported that's willing to speak, because that's an entirely different experience.
Correct.
Because you did not go prepared, like someone who said, like, I have a remote job, I'm gonna be going in a month's time, and they have time to pack and do all that. So I think that will be something important. Stephen JJ is tuned in saying, Ruth, good to see you bana. Last week nilikuwa unavailable, undisclosed location kama DJ Omosh, mara moja moja unaingia mvunguni, tuko pamoja. Sawa Stephen JJ, karibu sana. Now Ruth, I want to come back to you.
Yes.
Most people who plan to move back say they can work remote in Kenya to sustain themselves. But what does that really look like day to day, with the different time zones working, internet connectivity demands, and even power stability? The experience of working remote in Kenya. Ruth.
Thank you for that question. Also, can I say, if this is one question I brainstormed with my very good friend Pablo. So Pablo, shout out for...
I think Pablo needs to pay us.
Give me... Yes. No, you should pay Pablo.
Okay, let's talk about remote work.
Tumerukwa.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, remote work. So, I don't know. I approach remote work with a lot of responsibility because you've been trusted not to work at the office, not only at home, totally different location. So there are opportunities to not take the job responsibly. I have to say that because I think if everybody knows about remote work is people do say like, I don't have to, naeza kuangalia TV nikifanya, like, so one of the things I do at work, this is whether I'm in the US or outside the US, is if I'm taking meetings, which is like half of my day is meetings, is on video. I want to create trust with the people I'm working with. I want you to see me like you would see me in the office, right? Let's talk it through like we would in the office. So that way you bridge the gap that I'm not here, right? So that is one thing that I do. The other is, remember, I am working a totally different shift, right? I'm not doing the 9 to 5. Matter of fact, I was doing the second shift, the 3 to 11, but only that is like the 4 to midnight or 1 a.m. And we were also in the middle of a very big undertaking at work. So you know how you'd log in like either 7
So are you
to
talking Kenyan time?
Kenyan time.
Okay.
Sorry. So yeah, when I'm saying logging in, I was working a different time for work because I was in Kenya, and I'm working US time because I'm the only one. Remember, I'm the only one at work who decided I'm gonna work outside, right? And my job is not based outside the US; it's based in the US. So I kind of have to work US time. Because most of my work is done during Eastern Standard Time. So when people start working at 9, that's when I log in at 4 p.m. in Kenya, right?
Wow.
So I'm doing the second shift. Normally you used to say, if you work in healthcare in the US, people do a ton of second shifts. So that's what I was doing. And so what that would mean is I would sleep in because I probably would work late most of the time because 2025 we were also doing a huge undertaking at work, so it meant late nights. So I'll be going to bed around 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, which means then I still need to get to my 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I'll sleep in until like around 10, 11. So I have whatever I need to do for myself. I have from 11 to 3 because wherever I am, I need to get back. So I need to put in the time to travel back home and be able to work.
Yeah.
And bring my best to work. So whatever it is I was doing cannot be something that overworked me.
Yeah.
And so part of the discipline was sometimes I'll look at the day and be like, you know what, sindi mahali leo. We were supposed to meet. And do you want us to meet at 2? Sorry, I can't do that. You know? That's why, remember when I said that people I did not get to meet because like the entire time I was there, because when they were available to meet, Ruth was working.
So no dinner meetups.
Those dinner meetups out.
Okay.
Out.
Okay.
So I did miss out on socializing in Kenya because of that. And then I remember I had some diaspora friends who happened to be in Kenya. They'd be like, so when they're out, 1 or 2, 1 a.m. in the morning, I'm like, I'm not that kind of person. That's not my lifestyle. I'm not going to leave work at 1 in the morning and then go out.
Okay.
So I'll be like, it's okay. It's mimi yote nikalale. But also work was really demanding. So I was working late hours. Okay. Where if I were here, it would be like mpaka 7 p.m. So imagine 7 p.m. in Kenya. It's 2 in the morning. Okay. So there is a need to bring that aspect of if you say I'm gonna go to Kenya and work the remote work, and you're working remote with US hours, it's gonna
the duration of time that you need to stay in Kenya. Almost, I can't remember your question exactly, but I think you had a question regarding in that regard.
So that was about the tax ramifications with timing. Because on the last show, Ruth mentioned that after engaging her employers, she was told basically, okay, as long as you keep within this time range, then we are good because you're not violating the tax
residency.
Yes, I guess. Yeah. Okay. And so then my question, I guess, was around also around that whole residency thing, So at what point would you know? So for instance, let's say you left and you didn't tell your employer, and like for me, I have 100% remote job.
Okay.
So as long as I'm in the US, they don't care.
Yes.
So if I just decided sasa mimi ndio huyo nimetoka kivyangu na nimeenda, and I've not told them, they don't care. And even with my job, I don't have to do face to face.
Okay.
So this so-called tax ramifications, at what point do they kick in? Because you say there was a window, there was like a 6-month window. So was that tax ramification, is it something that's on paper, or is it something that your corporation does, or it's like a compliance thing with the IRS, which is equivalent of KRA to those listening?
Which, by the way, you would be in, those are issues that would be, there's policy from KRA and there's policy from IRS on that, right? So just FYI. So during COVID, when everybody went to remote, if people had a job in, I'm gonna pick New York, the office was based in New York, and if you're working for a company in New York and they hired you from New York, you could only probably live in New Jersey or Connecticut, right? Like
areas.
States that have a
certain
treaty
tax, yeah.
with the state of New York, right?
yeah.
But what people did, like, vamos, nimeenda Florida, I don't have to stay here. And they didn't, at that time, Kumbuka, because they were promoting remote work, they were like supportive of people.
Yeah.
But then people actually made permanent moves
Yes.
Correct.
to other states, right? Or other places. If you remember, during COVID, there was so many memes around, companies saying, like, we have a meeting at this amount of time, at this time. And someone's like, well, I'm at the beach, I can't come to that meeting. Like, I don't know, did you see those reels? There's so many like that. Yeah. So going back to the tax residency thing, it's based on self-reporting with your employer. So it means you kind of have to be honest with it. You have to bring it up yourself, right? And say, I'm moving from this location to this other location. And then if it's within the states, then there's a period to establish residency. Remember, when you're paying your taxes, you pay taxes from federal and state. Where are they paying? Where are you being deducted taxes from at that point?
Yes.
See why you have to self-report where you are, right? And so and then also there's an entire thing on IRS for this. I wanted to share the link. But then if you're going outside the country, then it becomes, carrier can come for me,
Yes.
So I need you to know the carrier can come for me, for me earning money out there. And IRS, and if I don't self-report, the thing is, it's based on self-reporting. So if I choose not to self-report, and I go beyond the days that are allocated for it. And each company is different. I need to say that. They're not, what companies have a timeline where you need to report for how long you've been out, right? Then they change your taxes. But then if your company is not global, where are they changing it to?
Yes, so I think this is a topic that we actually need to bring, like people who legally understand the ramifications of this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who have remote jobs sometimes just assume, because I'm working behind a computer screen, I can just buy my ticket, go to Kenya, get started working. I remember my place of work, there are people who lost jobs because they went out of state. Like my place of employment was a bit, very stringent, even during COVID. They did not want people
going out of state.
It's that tax thing.
Yes.
It's that tax thing. Because they file for MD, they have to do the nini. Like the way we do our state taxes. And so they are giving all the money to the state of Maryland.
Yes.
So then if somebody is
filing from Oklahoma,
then that means that they need to be paying New York.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem, because these guys never told them they were going to New York.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, that's right. Apa Disodak has a comment, and she's going to the other end. She's asking Ruth, could Matia Roho Chafu planning your demise? I'm speaking about untimely murders of returnees by those close to them. This is not a Kamba thing because y'all have paper in Argentina. So this, I mean, I don't think this is a topic. This is a topic that we can have an episode of its own, because we've had some cases here and there. I don't want to say this is the norm.
It's not
yeah.
the norm, but as it happens,
but it gets
yes.
amplified when it happens. So this
Yeah.
hiyo hapo
I wonder
tutaongea
if
baadaye.
she's nini. Unajua
Well, mimi naweza changia hiyo story ya tax.
Aya, ingia
Yes,
Mika, talk to us about tax.
Okay, so this is the thing. As a notorious mover to Kenya for a few months, what happens is that, as Ruth says, it's self-reporting, right? What most people do, those people who go, like, I have a job and they decide to go to Kenya and stay 6-5 months, it's usually they haven't changed their residence or anything. They are still have their normal residence where they are in their state. Like, the only thing that's different is their location. It's just, it's like a trip. I'm allowed to work from anywhere. I'm going to it. So that's why they're not reporting anything. In the case whereby your work decides that you've told your work you're moving. Kumbuka wewe in vacation, wewe ambia job yake mimi, because most people tell their managers, like, you know what, I'm going to be traveling around the world, or I'm going to be traveling in few countries. And so I'll be in various locations. That's travel. That's like ile wamekubali. That's your work in traveling. Now, then there's a difference when you say you are moving. Because even if you're speaking with your manager, ile kupiga story, mwambia I'm thinking of moving to another state na unadu job remote. Utasikia amekwambia, ebu confirm na HR kama unaweza work from your state.
Yes.
Yeah.
To make sure that there's that tax code in it. So it's the same thing with this moving to Kenya. Most of the guys who you see going to Kenya and staying there, those are people who, hiyo category mnasema working from Kenya. Hawaja report, hawajafanya nini, ni ile tu mdosi wako amekwambia, wewe unaweza fanya job place yote bora, you can log in and work there. And you log in. So that's why, like, for me, when I used to go nikienda 3 months, 4 months, it was just like, adios. I'm going to be in Kenya. Maybe siku moja mtu na nini ya TZ mkiona Dubai, like mkiona VPN niko country within a certain region niko sawa. Bora mkiona North Korea ama ya Russia mjue siko sawa, but within other areas mkiniona mjue niko sawa, anakuambia poa. Hapo si moving, wewe umenotify tu sitakuwa area ndakuwa nazurura.
Okay. Yeah, clearly this is a topic that needs details. There's not a very good understanding by most people of this aspect. So yes, a couple of comments here coming in while we're having the conversation. Washeke says, for some roles that are under regulatory bodies such as SEC, FINRA, etc., working outside of your jurisdiction could result in fines to your employer. Yeah, so
Correct.
that's a big one right there.
Yeah.
So find out the restrictions within your industry. And then Doreen Florence says, I work 100% remote, but if I move to a different state, I have to inform HR so my state taxes are withheld correctly. Esther Mulusa, all the way from the Daddy South, North Carolina. She says, I moved to Kakamega for 2 years at the height of COVID. I was able to do my work online during the non-contact period. Those were the best years of my life. With Wi-Fi and a good top, I was able to hold brief half class very effectively. The only reason I had to unwillingly hold myself back after the COVID vaccine was out in 2022. And then Apa Randula is giving some advice of how to circumvent the law.
Apana Chief Luya.
Anasema Mika mambo ni VPN. And then Apa during Florence anasema my employer refused to allow anyone to work outside the US for this very reason. And YouTube, na YouTube watu wamenyamaza kidogo. YouTube people, please talk to us. Let us know what's going on. Any one of you planning to work remotely while they relocate to Kenya. And the number to call, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Now, another thing, Ruth, here, even though you are not necessarily employed locally, like your employers was in the US, you had experiences with people at their workplaces, socially, and even at events. So you might have some idea. For diasporans thinking, fully understand until we are on the ground. Ruth.
Oh, wow. I think the biggest one is we are direct. And in Kenya, I found that people, talk in parables.
Elaborate that.
I mean, I think, before I even go to the workplace, just to talk about in the streets, right? And this is something my sister commented on. And she told me, we'll read my sister's comment about our point of view of me being in Kenya. She was actually, can I read it? Can I just that particular one?
Sure.
Because I think it to show what I mean by we are direct and people are not direct. So give me a second here. Let me pull it up.
Yes, and of course, as you're pulling up your sister's comments, we're going to be going through a brief shortly of Ruth's sister's reactions. Ruth was living with a sister. She tuned into the episode 2 weeks ago, and she also had some perspectives, having seen, like Ruth experience Kenya in a different way for the first time after over 20 years in the US. Ruth.
Yes, thank you. So she did say you're straightforward in dealing with people. Well, here there's a way to talk to people, especially people older than you, and that was surprising to me. So it's my sister telling me it was surprising to you that people are not straightforward when they're talking. So one of the things will be you can always kosoa an elder.
Okay.
Somebody who is older than you. So you can imagine that in the workplace, your boss has done something and you need to find a way to kind of talk it out with them.
Okay.
Or just on the street. Like, kwanza hii story ya kununua chai, I literally thought it was buying tea.
Oh, Lord.
Right? Do you know what that means?
Well, but just like make us understand. So your story ya kununua, because you're talking to diasporans.
Yeah. Okay, so it's when you meet somebody and then they do a favor or they're just with you and then they say sutanunua chai, and I'll be like, yeah, tununua chai, and because
So for those who don't understand in the diaspora, what does kununua chai mean?
It means
like in the street.
Okay, so I got to learn it's you give them something.
Okay, something like
usually
what?
money.
Like a gift.
Usually money.
Okay,
right?
So you bribe them.
It's not necessarily bribe, by
Or
the
it's
way.
a token of appreciation.
Yes.
It could be
That's
any.
exactly
Yeah,
what
it
token
is
of
any.
appreciation.
Yeah, right.
That's what it's
Yes.
called.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
like sometimes I'll literally interpret it as like, so turn to chai, right? And let's turn to chai. So it's things like that I had to learn. Like, so I would have to ask people, so what do they mean? Not just the chai only. I can't come up with something else right now, but be like, okay, what do they mean by that?
Okay.
Why are we talking in circles when we all know why we're here?
So diasporans are like
Your
get to
chai
the
si
point.
tip.
Well,
Si American inaitwa tip.
Well, Mika,
No.
I think it depends on the
No,
context.
but Mika has a point.
I think it depends on the context.
It depends on the
Because
context.
Hizi America kila duka iko na tip.
But this is not only in
Hata mpaka DMV kuna tip.
wait, what?
Hey,
Those are government services.
that-
They
DMV
should
has
not
tip.
be.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a tips at the DMV. But no, it's
Give us context. Like what kind of context?
yeah,
Kununua
like
chai.
something that
Ask you,
happened, something
kununua
that
chai.
happened that you can think of.
Yeah, just a random thing, like someone does you a favor, and then anakwambia umnunulie chai.
so someone goes out of their way to do something. Okay, I'm gonna say goes out of their. But if somebody's going out of their way to do something for me, I'll find a way to appreciate them. But it's more like this, and I need you to know this is not in offices. This is like in the day to day.
Okay.
Okay, let me pick the smallest of one. Like, okay, nenda mahali, and someone says, hey, I can help you with that, right? And they're working with me or whatever they're helping me with. And then namwambia asante, thank you so much. Okay, cool. Sutanua chai, right? Or it could be, man, kunua chai came in so many. I don't even know how to explain.
Okay, but this is in the street. This is not in work.
It doesn't even have to be work.
Yeah.
I'm saying it doesn't even have to be work.
So it could be work.
It could
also.
be also a work if somebody does something outside of their norm, outside of what they would like their job description is.
Okay.
You know,
okay. If they go above and beyond.
if they go above and beyond, or if they, it's above and beyond, or maybe kazi yako ni, that is your location, then you came to my location to help me something, that, you know.
Okay. Sasa hiyo hapo kuna hiyo, okay, of course kuna hiyo issue ya not being direct, but what about these other issues at the workplace, you know, like and I think maybe that came up because I mentioned speaking up.
Yeah,
you know,
so
like
speaking
at the
up,
workplace.
because I know I'm direct. You know you're direct when people in America tell you you're direct.
Yeah.
When you know how direct the work culture is here.
Yes.
So when someone tells you at work you're direct, you know you're super direct.
Yes,
Direct
you're blunt.
as an African, right? So I was told, like, people talk in circles about things. You know, we might meet here to talk about this phone, but, you know, we'll start talking about the effect of the phone before we start talking about the phone itself. I'm like, well, we came here for the phone. Why are we talking about the effect of the phone? I don't know whether I'm making sense with this one.
Were you being efficient with
so-
your
so-
directness?
I was being efficient.
Yeah.
I was trying to be very efficient. Why are we talking in circles about something we know we're supposed to be talking about?
Okay. So that's something that you have to adjust.
So you
to our
wanted
culture.
somebody to tell you bribe.
Not even bribe. I'll tell you, even okay, so this is even in Kamba culture, right? So like okay, can I give you a very good example? It's only that this is the only example I have in my mind to kind of translate, but this is, remember when President Kenyatta, first one, died? I don't know who went to tell who, but what they said is the Mugumo tree has fallen.
Oh, so it did not just say Kenyatta is dead.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is what I'm talking about. And
Okay.
to me, I take literally the Mugumo tree has fallen and not the symbolism of it.
Okay.
That is what I can come close to explaining what I found myself in discussions and I did not know what we're talking about.
Okay. All right. So that's something that diasporans will have to adjust as far as
If
the
you're not used
work
to
culture
it.
is concerned.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about issues like harassment, you know, like at the workplace?
If I can go back to the stories I gave last time.
Yes.
And this discouraged me in terms of seeking work in Kenya. But also it depends on the industries. I think the non-profit, the NGOs, whatever, they tend to be very Western-minded. So they have a lot of policies around sexual harassment that are very, very...
Those headquarters abroad.
Yes.
They're very strong.
Very strict.
They're very strict about them. But I'm talking about Kenyan companies. My female friends did share that sexual harassment is rampant. It's just in the workplace, and that people, it's not taken seriously. Are there policies around it? I think there is, but it's more like sort of, you know, HR doesn't. They'll say HR doesn't take it seriously, or you end up losing the job yourself because you're no letter, you know, tension kazini. You're the one bringing up issues at work.
Yeah.
Nobody had issues with that. And I think if I can also go back to the story I told about me asking about working in the industry, and the person I was being introduced to saying that, you know, whatever happens between her and me is between me and her and me. Don't worry about telling the person introducing me. Don't worry about what happens to me and her. It's ni kati yetu. And I'm like, you're introducing me to learn more about the industry. What are you talking about? Personal interaction between me and you that have nothing to do. Because from my point of view, anything, if Ali introduced me to Omosh, right? That should be an easy introduction. And I can meet with Omosh, talk about, what do you do, Omosh?
I play music.
Okay, talk about DJing, but they would, you know, there's a song which I play here by the FYI. But talk about music, right? and it be about music, not to you story hapo. But it cannot be Ali, you're telling Omosh, usimsumbue ni beshte yangu, right? You're giving this caveat right before I even meet Omosh. Even from where I'm standing, I'm like, why are you warning Omosh asinisumbue? And then Omosh telling you, don't worry about her, it's between me and her.
But the guy knew it. That's why he was saying.
Yeah,
that. He knew. He knew exactly.
He
which
knew what was
direction it
happening.
going to go.
Yeah.
So he wanted to stop it before it started.
Exactly. And I think he's feeling that more secure in telling him in my presence would help.
Exactly.
But from where I'm standing, I'm like, actually, I don't care about music anymore. I'm fine.
So the question is, because that's something that really bothered me, you know, like when you mentioned it last week, and I think these are our blind spots coming out. I had never thought about it as being something normal,
Yeah.
you know, like within, I would say, most industries. And of course now we are just talking in parables. You've had the experience of being in Kenya, and you've had the experience of talking to other women. But I think that right there, you know, like makes me very fearful, you know, like for any women who are working in Kenya and are trying to get ahead, you know, like based on
Merit.
You know, like one industry that I have been told about is the media industry. You know, like this is very rampant in the mainstream media industry. And of course, this is something that can be denied. Each company will say HR does this, does that. But then from what I'm hearing from you is like there's kind of like a soft tolerance towards this kind of behavior. It's kind of like you're gonna get a slap on the wrist if it's reported to HR, or you're told stop doing it.
Or you lose a job. Like the person reporting will lose a
so
job.
the person reporting can potentially lose a job. Yeah. I think this is another area that we also need to have an episode, especially for, you know, like our women in the diaspora who want to go back to Kenya to pursue employment. To fully understand, you know, like what they might be walking into. Omosh.
Ali, you know, when you were saying that, funnily enough, I was thinking of our parents.
Yes.
That generation. And wondering what war stories they have about the workplace.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And the sexual harassment, because this is not something that started.
No, it's
Jana.
not new.
No.
It's been there.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, you know, like there were those unwritten rules of zile siku za shorthand. And I know your mom knows how to write
Yes, my
shorthand.
mom is very good at shorthand.
So zile siku
Same
za
with my mom
shorthand,
as well.
everybody, it's almost like if there was a lady who is a secretary, who I mean, there were secretaries, it was always assumed that an alalana boss, whether they are or not, those days of shorthand, everybody's like, okay, this guy must be cooler in this mama. And it can be that it's just that this is the person who is his executive assistant or doing his calendars and making sure the letters are typed and, you know, meetings are attended and so on and so forth. It was always looked at like that in that time.
Yes.
So you can only imagine what it is now, where there's more, I guess I'm going to say, empowerment to the managers, and the managers have a much larger leeway. And then people are forced to keep quiet. You're forced into silence. Yeah, because you want to keep your job, you have to be silent.
You know, let me talk about why people tend to keep quiet. Remember last time I said there are not enough jobs in Kenya.
Correct.
There's a reason why people are always looking for jobs in Kenya, because they're not enough to go around, right?
Correct.
So imagine you landed a good job and this is what you're facing. There could be chances for you to advance and take and, you know, become a manager or whatever, but like, you know, or you've seen it happen that the more you start rising, the more this demands come at you. The people just decide, I'm not saying it's everywhere, but it's enough that it's a conversation to have, that people will be like, I would rather not pursue, I would just rather keep quiet. And if the harassment happens, you know, you might have zero to no recourse in terms of like how to address it.
Wow. You know,
It's not like here where I can be like, sue everybody. Let's start with that. I can quit the job, find a job somewhere else, and I can sue everybody if I want to do that.
Yeah.
They may not have that.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, you know, like that's something that I mean, I don't even know if a conversation will help, because if this is something that is normalized, because we live in a very different society,
Yeah.
whereby like you don't even want to look for example at a female employee
Hey,
in a certain way.
How do you
directly.
look at them?
Yeah, you don't even want to compliment. It's a very opposite here.
Yeah.
So I think that's something very important that people who are moving back to Kenya, especially women, need to be aware of. And comments coming in thick and fast. YouTube bado, you know, like watu wamezembea, but I can see Pablo there is active. Pablo anasema Ruth, talk about tone, urgency, responsiveness, expectations in communication styles. And I think you already have alluded to that a little bit.
I just when I was talking about being direct and stuff. So
Yeah.
remember, I think this is one, and I need to say this. We cannot put this at the workplace because I did not work
Yeah.
in Kenya.
Okay.
But let's do this in social settings because that's where I was, right? I need this done, or can we do this, or how can we address this, right? Typically, while I'm here, I tend to schedule all of those things. And it's easy to get somebody, I'll come tomorrow, let's do that next week, you know, and you're given a date and a time, right? I think I ran into, tutafanya, you know, or tutaangalia, or inajua kitu nitakupigia kesho tuongee juu hiyo kitu, and then tomorrow comes and goes,
No
and then
commitment.
and then I
A
call
week later.
no, I call. Oh yeah, si tuliongea the other day tu, si nitakupigia simu. You know, I'm like, wait, like I thought we're trying to address this, right? So it's just timelines that are not really hardcore, like they're not set on stone like I'm used to. So that is something I kind of had to figure out that happens. In the beginning was very frustrating, and I'll be like, and this is something my sister has talked about it, is like, watafanya usija, like this, like no, not achana na, no, it's more like usijali watafanya.
Okay.
And I'm like, sangapi, when I need to know a time.
Yes, and we're gonna get to your sister's responses. Uno Mike had something you wanted to add before I read some Facebook comments here.
No, what I wanted to say was, in other words, what Ruth is saying, that your mentality has to shift from how things work in the US.
Yes.
Kuna system totally different
Yes.
to 5-4.
Yeah, kabisa, entirely different.
Totally different. So how you expect, you know, like you make an appointment, portal, you lost your license, you go, your license is replaced. That is fine here. Huko. If you don't know anyone, you just go with what the process is. So that is one thing about a mentality change, because you cannot take your mentality of how things function here and copy paste and expect to 5-4 to be the same.
Yeah.
It will never work.
Yeah, one thing that is also very shocking, but certificates here, I came to find out that you can get them on the same day.
Yes.
Like if you go to an office,
Yeah.
you can go in, walk in,
Yes.
and walk out with a birth certificate
Yes.
within 10 minutes.
Yes.
But Ali, why are you shocked?
No, because these are things, you know, like you have that memory of Kenya, whereby
You have to come back.
I get you, bro.
when you're thinking of
I
a
get
birth
you.
certificate,
I
you,
get
you
you.
know that this is a task
Yes.
that you have to prepare for, that you have to be patient
The only
with.
yes.
Yeah.
The only thing, like you know, sorry to, like I had to go and get birth certificate here, Aiden.
Yeah.
Only thing is that I had to make an appointment.
Yes.
I guess because of COVID.
Yeah.
Like now you can't just go.
Yeah, okay. Some offices still have that. Yeah.
Yes. So it's an appointment.
Yeah.
And if without an appointment, you're not being led through. So you make an appointment. You come in. What's your name? Alibadai. Okay, sawa. Go in. Depending on how many people are in front of you.
Yeah.
Alibadawi, $10, and you roll out.
Some offices that are not busy, like in Frederick County, walk in, no appointment, walk out with it.
So me, I went to the one Baltimore, Ricestown.
That
somewhere.
definitely,
So
yeah,
it's
that definitely
busy.
is a busy
It's
one.
busy, yeah. But you, on this side, but even if you make the appointment, you're scheduling an appointment according to your convenience.
Yes.
Unaingia,
Na unatoka.
out in Asia, go there.
Yes, but that's where you have to have a shift in mindset. The comments that were coming in, you know, like we're a bit behind on the Facebook side. Esther Mulusa here saying, I think I like my profession because even before COVID, I was able to grade my students' papers from Kenya and turn in the exam grades without any problems. I would leave before the semester was over, seamlessly wrap the semester up. I have never needed permission to work remotely. And then Esther further says, by the way, I am in Shimalavandu, not in the Dari South. It's about 4 a.m. I like you guys that much to be up in the wee hours of dawn. Thank you so much, Esther Mulusa. And then Doreen Florence anasema facilitation is the word they love using.
Facilitation fee.
Is the word. Facilitation fee.
By the way, you need different na chai.
Yes, that facilitation fee is different.
It's different. Now
Yes.
that is what you might want to call bribes.
That's what Afro-Jamaican was requested for.
Facilitation. That's what we call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is this tea of you as a lunch? Are they in the same WhatsApp group?
Ama ni buy lunch.
Ni lunch.
Same,
Yeah,
ni lunch.
ni lunch.
Ni
Yeah.
lunch.
Ni lunch.
Ni lunch.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The same.
And then let me see. Apa this has a question on medical issues. But we are gonna get to that at this, so not to worry. We'll get to that part about healthcare in Kenya. Paul Waithaka is tuned in. Paul Waithaka anasema good show again. I know Ruth, I owe you a call. Still trying to shed off the bad Kenyan habits.
Awache excuses.
No, he said don't call back.
Awache
That's why he said that. But Paul, I
Yes.
totally understand.
3 weeks.
Take
How
your
many
time.
weeks has
Call
it been?
me.
It's 2.
No, I'll call them this
It's-
week.
So okay.
Yeah,
then
and
next week.
Paul,
done.
please confirm here. We want to have you next week.
Yeah.
On Friday. Yeah, hii hapa sile ya kuona ati I'll call you back.
He
we're
still
gonna
has
put
Kenyan
you,
habits.
Yeah, he has Kenyan habits. We want to put you on the spot. Nataka uweke hapo kwa comment to confirm.
Do you want him
Yeah.
to give you a time also?
Yeah. No, si sure iko na time. Sasa we'll put him to task. We're trying to Americanize him because he's
Mnamsaidia.
he's happy. He said yani he's coming to him is happy to be here. So we'll re-Americanize him by force, by fire. And then Stephen JJ was asking an interesting question. Ali, what about female artists mtani? The entertainment industry is also another industry that's very notorious for this. So yeah, that's just a conversation that we need to have a show for. Yeah. And then Washeke is also talking about illness. We're going to get to that. Washeke also talks about sexual harassment and bullying policies are non-existent in
100%.
Kenya.
Did Washeke work in Kenya when she was in Kenya?
Washeke confirmed that. Drop a comment while you're living in Kenya. Confirm if you had a chance to work. And then hapa Mashalili anasema hola, karibu sana. Thank you so much Mashalili for tuning in. Stephen JJ anasema I always stay in touch with my bros in Kenya. We have a group I log in every day kwa sababu Kenya is evolving haraka sana. Mchezo ya town, you have to be real time na mtaa. And then Mashalili says I think it's the resources. If you have to be wealthy to receive potential leads of resources, that's sad. I also don't know how human resources works in Kenya, but do they have people to help out to getting something else if they don't have a budget for what's being offered? Ama ni tembea na Yesu style. So yes, so again, this is a very big topic.
I will go tembea na Yesu first before anything else.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody this week and still on the show.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, they said that one thing that is very important is crucial above everything else. Mentality has to be it. Your mental state, mental capacity, your mental has to be, you have to be prepared.
you cannot be fully prepared for that.
I know.
Yeah.
You cannot be fully prepared. No, I agree. I
Yeah.
Or
agree.
you have to be prepared,
But
not to
mentally-
be fully prepared.
Yes, that mentally unaweza chapwa
I want
Kenya-
to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead,
Mika.
When people go for vacation from America,
Mm.
do they go with the mentality that that place they're going to, everything is going to be seamless as it is in America?
I think
think
people
so.
do.
I don't know. There's
I don't think
actually
so.
some people do.
The people do.
There's some people who do and get irritated when things are
Yeah,
not.
but then
Ex-
majority of
And
of people.
that is the point I'm going to.
Go
And
ahead.
then the thing is that, and you get irritated, right? Because, but then these are the same people who get irritated by foreigners who come here, and those foreigners seem to be perplexed by how American things are working.
Yes.
So, what I'm trying to say is this: in America, you'll get a passport in one day. In Kenya, you won't get a passport you won't get a birth certificate the same day because they have a central location where they're printing them. Lack of resources. An evolving society. We wish we had the resources like America, then tuseme hatuwezi fanya vitu zingine ka hizo. Right? It's the same way. Right now is when HR policies and all those are coming into the country, and people are shining a light into some of these things, and they're growing into them. So we want Kenya to be as effective on things as the first world, but you also have to give it grace that it's lacking, it's behind, it's catching up. We are not the same.
Okay, fair enough. Now, Wakama 783 is on Wakama 873 is on YouTube. Anasema, this is a very good topic. I've been traveling back and forth for the last 5 years. You have to have a game plan. Have an investment making you money before you go. Finish everything before you go. Final move happening next year, summer, God willing. It's not easy, but the mindset here, Ulaya, leave it in Ulaya. Kenya is completely different. Go with the mentality, UK ama US, you'll be finished. Wakama, thank you so much. Please tell us more about your experience. Tell us what country you're in, or if you're in the US, what state you're in, because she's been moving for 5 years. And also explain to us, why has that move been taking 5 years? That seems like a very long
Amekuwa
time.
kijipanga.
Yeah, amekuwa
No,
kijipanga.
5 years is short. Come on, Najipanga.
Yeah.
Think about it, Ali. Like, let's say, assuming you want to build your house or a place where you're gonna live, where you don't have
she's
to
making
pay
a
rent.
permanent move.
Yes.
Yes.
This is a person.
yeah.
5 years is actually short.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Good.
The people have been
'Cause-
panging for like about 10 years.
Kuna hao, but
Yeah.
because they're still wanapanga now, they're still leaving. I
Yeah.
think if you're planning to move and it's an active plan, there are two things you need to do at the same time. Remember, you're still living here, right? So you're still in. You have expenses here. You have a life. You still have plans to work on here, but you're also using the same resources to plan yourself on the other side, not unless you've created another extra source of money or put it to fund what you're trying to do in Kenya, right? So look at it that way. So when you say 5 years, if somebody's trying to move in 5 years, it's not like they're taking all their paycheck or their investment to, they still have a life here, and they're trying to also create one that they will have a soft landing.
Like a soft landing in Kenya.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
All
you
right.
don't
Yeah.
you don't wanna go, if you're planning a permanent move, you don't want to do the things I am doing. I'm doing this because I'm literally free. I can
Okay.
do these things.
So you can do it, and you can even come back.
I
if you
can
want to
go,
back.
come back.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have people holding me down. So it's easy to be like, nimetoka na hiyo place, nimekuja hapa, nimetoka na hii place.
So you have the flexibility.
I have the flexibility.
Okay.
People don't have that.
Okay. Now,
And that is what I was trying to clarify earlier when I was saying the calls that I was getting, the bombardment of info,
yes.
where I was told, clarify that what Ruth was doing was she went and she was working
Yeah.
vis-a-vis somebody who is making
Permanent move.
permanent move,
Yeah.
not to work, not to take up a job with, let's say, for example, a multinational or whatever. Like in wewe sasa umeenda kufanya what you want. If you're a farmer,
Yeah.
if you are a fisherman,
or a politician. Yeah.
You are a
and Waithaka,
You
Paul
Politician.
Waithaka- Paul
But
Waithaka
we had
amekubali.
Asema is on it.
Yeah, he's on it. So Paul Waithaka next Friday.
Amesema is on it. Can you confirm whether it's actually
No,
free
Paul
or like,
Waithaka write in a full sentence. I will be on the OneMic Show next Friday.
at least
8
say
p.m.
when you're
EST.
at least say when
but
you'll be
is
available.
Mika was saying something.
is that
Mika.
Boston time?
Yes, Boston is EST. Mika was saying
Okay.
something. Mika.
No. I was saying last week we had 2 callers who called in,
Mm-hmm.
and both of them had moved permanently and came back. So
Correct.
we
Paul was one of them.
yeah. So we can't just say that it was all about how Ruth spoke. Ruth spoke on her story, but the other callers spoke on their stories. So hao wenye walikuwa nakuzushia uno walisikia show mzima.
No. And that's why I said, no. I'm in agreement because I'm like, they did not listen. And so there was a clip that I sent where a clarification was being made where I said that you have to plan. You cannot just be going back. If you're moving back, you have to make a plan. It has to be systematic.
Yeah.
You can, but I got his point. I think in terms of saying, you know what, there's a difference between somebody going to work in Kenya vis-a-vis somebody who is moving back to Kenya.
There is a big
Unaget?
difference.
There's a
And
big
we've-
difference, yeah.
And we've discovered actually there's a difference whereby there's one person who reports the way Ruth reported to work and said that she wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between that person who is on vacation and is working while on vacation.
Yes. So these are all different experiences.
Exactly.
And I think,
Yes.
you know, like, especially if Paul, you know, like confirms in a full sentence that he's
Yes.
coming to the episode. next
In fact,
Friday.
no. Let us have him call the show,
Yes.
commit verbally,
Yes.
na sauti,
Yeah.
then it's on record.
Okay.
Period.
Oh,
Hatutaki
yeah.
madhokodhanio.
Listen.
Is this the mentality you had in Kenya when you were being direct? This one.
Yes.
This is the direction.
Yes.
So
I'm
you
with
see-
your sister.
Yes.
I ukome hiyo tabia.
So you see, we are gonna confirm with Paul. Paul had a very different experience. And then Apa Wakama says,
And by the way, Paul hasn't even called. I'm waiting to see the number of a year
Yes.
on the thing for him to confirm.
yeah. So
Atiga wana.
So Wakama on YouTube says, I'm in Dublin, Ireland. I have been here for over 26 years. Game plan ni lazima, and finding honest people back home who look after your investment back home is not easy.
Hiyo ni ngori,
Yes,
bro.
about soft landing
ni system.
ni muhimu sana. And on
Very
YouTube,
interesting.
you know, like the people who are asking on YouTube, you know, like if you want to support the show, there's a $sign at the bottom right of you. If you're watching this on a phone, there's a $sign. You can click on it and play with it. And I think it shows different currencies depending on
upon where you are.
Where
Yeah.
you are. If you're in Dublin, Ireland, it will show the Dublin, Ireland currency. If that's
That one.
sterling pound, I'm not sure what it is. If you're in Europe, it will
It's
show
money
the
that's
euro.
not dollars.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
bonyeza kidude.
Please, bonyeza.
Okay,
Na
good.
sambaza.
And then Upper Stephen JJ is saying, but we are funding State House sijui 17 billion
A year.
And then
That's true.
yeah.
JJ.
And then
JJ.
there's someone with a script that I don't even understand the name.
Near
but,
AI.
But is asking, do you guys know that job postings in
Yes.
Kenya state female 21 years to
old.
XYZ?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think,
And
is that allowed
Oh.
by Kenyan law?
We need to look into
We need
that.
to look it up,
Look at
yes.
that, yes.
Yes, we need to look it
They are
up.
very specific in
Yes.
Yeah,
what they
even-
want for.
Are you
engagement,
single? Are you
sex,
married?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Very,
know,
very
I'm
Marital
like,
status.
marital
Yes.
status.
Yeah, you know,
I've
those
seen
are
people-
the things.
Yeah.
Those are the things I was looking and I was like, why is marital status something that is put on a
On a
resume?
resume.
You're stable.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
stable.
Yeah, people do that on their CV.
You know the one thing. This is actually a good. It imenipatia kale ka hit blood moment.
Mikasi.
you guys know the way Kenyans laugh at us and call us DI hires. Eh? Now, if they had DI, angekuwa naambiwa sijui apply a certain age, sijui certain married, single ama nini, because there's no discrimination. It's diversity and inclusivity. So when they make jokes and laugh at us and call us to appear. We're just DI hires. That's why we're being hired. But guess what? You're not being hired kwa sababu hamna hiyo DI. Unajua labda una miaka 35 na una apply kazi za watoto wa miaka 25. Unashanga mbona wa kuandikangi kazi. DI, ungefanya DI ungeandikwa kazi.
Yeah. Well, topic employment, there's clearly a lot of blind spots, and we're going to talk about it some more.
Yeah.
Now, Washeke is saying here on Facebook, those things are tenets of basic humanity and nothing to do with being a developed country. In Kenya, we have lost our humanity. That's why we rob accident victims instead of assisting them.
I agree with that.
Mashalili anauliza what soft landing though. How do we categorize that?
I think, can I answer to that briefly?
Yes, quick, because we want to move on from this topic.
Soft landing is you probably have built a house, you have the things that you probably would have while here, so you don't have to start from scratch while in Kenya. You already have them before you go.
Okay. And then Masha is also asking, is also saying, why would you make a permanent move without a plan? Premature move, we should call it. Again, what we want our goals to be doesn't mean act on it without a long-term step-by-step. I've seen people move to Kenya with that idea, but didn't listen that you need a plan. And then Washeke says she's seen, like some job have seen this, and even worse, some specify skin tone. That is very sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Airline industry.
Yeah.
Like hostess and stuff like that.
Oh, that is not good.
Oh, really?
Mimi nakwambia DI.
I'm telling you, there are some things, hata meno, kama meno yako iko sideways, unaambiwa straight up when you go for the interview, unaambiwa, you'll get it, but you go straight in your teeth. You have to go to a dentist.
Wow.
By the way, Moshi unasema mambo ya crooked teeth unaniangalia. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Unajua hata military wanataka ngokwe na meno straight ndo kule hongo vizuri. Wanataka ngosikwe na flat foot, unafaa kwa na kale kaako kwa mguu. Right? Alafu sijui like they really throw very basic stuff. Sijui unaweza kwa na kadent kadogo liumeone mdogo huko nini. So hiyo yote ni DI. Mimi naambia sana tucheka. Anyway, at the end of the day, there is no when it comes to hiring, there's no clear policy on how people, like the whole process from hiring, firing, while you're an employee, while you're being taken care of it, there's any clear policy on how employees are taken care of in that country. That is why you find guys can work for months and they've not been paid, because there's nowhere they can go to complain about it.
Yeah.
Wow, hapa Mashalili anasema skin tone LOL, y'all are trying to say yellow pass everything. Ama what are we talking about? And then Trish anasema skin tone is wild. And these are the things that we want people in the diaspora to be aware about when they're moving home.
They are really
real quick before we move on.
No, I was gonna say
comment.
Yes, I will read it.
When I was gonna say, when it comes to, I think somebody had talked about how can you move to Kenya when you don't have a plan. And I was gonna say, umenaswa na barafu na ujawai hata rudi home.
Yeah.
Chances are
oh, he thought about it. Yeah.
You need to take a break.
Sasa huyu.
Call your sister. Call your sister
now. Sister. Wait, sister, please. Umenaswa na barafu.
Yeah.
Hata maze vitu zimeenda.
Don't understand barafu, it is frozen water.
Frozen water.
It is frozen water, yeah.
This one.
Ungetumia kizungu wako na AI.
Yeah.
Umenaswa na barafu.
Yes. Yeah.
Sasa barafu,
yeah.
Pengine hata wewe umekuwa umesambaza mbesha uko.
Yes.
Lakini huko zikiland
zinapelekwa different,
zinapata panya root.
Yeah.
Na unapewa picha ya AI.
Yeah.
Vile Mika amesema, wewe ukiland huko unapata ghafla bin who.
Yes.
What is it?
Now
unasikia ngoma ya unit.
We unasema ngoma ya unit imefanya
ngoma gani?
unamwela ngoma ya penalty ile
Una-
hiyo
kumbe hauna.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
So was that Masha?
So yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
Masha
is
is
there are situations and there are instances where hauna you have
una jump,
una jump
shuka.
una lakini ukifika ngo
Yes.
Another,
Hakuna kitu.
another common
na
one.
kuna barafu imeleta shida.
But you
Yeah,
see,
Barafu is coming.
you see Barafu's case.
Yeah.
It is. I would really love to interview someone who's gone through that experience. I know it's a very traumatic experience. It's difficult.
is.
But now with Barafu, like when we had Fatmata Bar in studio,
Yes.
if you know, like you have complications with your makaratasi, I think it's very important to plan.
To have a plan.
To have a plan.
Right now it is.
Yes.
Right now,
have an exit
before-
plan or something. Have a plan.
Either an exit plan, or if you don't want to exit, have a plan in case like they can't pick you up.
For
This
that
is what
soft
happens.
landing.
Who's taking care of your kids? Who has connections to your bank accounts? Who's doing this? Who's doing
But
that?
technically that's an exit plan.
So no, an exit plan
It's a
is when you want to self
strategy.
when
It's
you
a
want
strategy.
to self
It's a
deport.
strategy. Yeah,
Self deport.
Yeah,
That's
true.
an exit plan. But when you're not planning to exit,
Kadhe.
you should plan for
Mingori.
when you get picked up.
True.
The
That's
o-
how.
you know the
Yes.
other one that also happens, and people are not talking about it here, and I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
You have a life-changing event, aka a death in the family. Now umesema, that's it. Ndio sina karatasi or whatever it is.
But that's it, I'm going.
I'm going, and that means I'm going one way.
Yeah.
Junaenda.
Yes. But that's a plan.
That's
exit.
another yeah.
You know,
It's
mzee
not
ameaga
really.
or
Yeah.
mzee ameaga.
it's
let
not
me-
planned.
And you,
That is not planned.
it wasn't planned, and you're like, I'm not missing this because of karatasi. I'm gone, and I understand
alafu
the
je-
ramifications.
Najua, I know some people who have done that.
Yeah.
Maybe planned
Yeah,
is not the
ingine
right
pia-
word. Voluntary. Mika.
Ingine
Involuntary.
pia
Yeah.
yenye watu wengine and people might actually assume it's a joke. It's just spontaneous. Mtu alienda vacation na kamwa, ai kuna kwanga hivi.
That's true. It
And-
happens, and they stay.
And
Yeah.
they
And they
decide, I'm not going back.
Yeah. I'm
Wow.
done. Yeah.
Wow. So a lot of comments coming in. We're already falling back on time. Esther Mulusa here was saying, when we go home after decades in the diaspora, we embody the white supremacy tendencies and tend to force those sensibilities on Kenyans. I seem to have that problem, which is amplified in the rural area. It's one thing to bring Western ideologies in the city, but the village is a different ball game. I have to dress modestly and check how I relate with men in the village, because I can be mistaken for being disrespectful or
Yes.
even flirting.
Yes.
I like the way Ruth made the household shop for the month, yet Kenyans enjoy buying fresh meat or a packet of milk from the kiosk
Every
when a
day.
guest arrives. Kenyans don't like filling the fridge right disposables. I find myself referring to the US way of things, where the law is king even in public offices. I have to struggle to remember to respect other people's cultures.
Abantu banje murembe murembe
That's
muno.
a really good.
Yes.
I think Asta, you literally have in my experience. And can I say one of the things I really was thrown off is going to rural areas and mimi nimeenda hata kama umevaa dress, like I'll be like, okay, sitavaa trouser nitavaa dress.
Sundress.
No, just a dress, respectful dress. My mom will come with backup shukas.
Yeah.
Mom will come with a backup
No,
for me.
Yes.
Because she knows I don't have it. Jifunge. I'm like, kwa nini?
Yeah, actually, you know,
know?
your shuka in
Yeah.
the village
It's
is
a big thing.
Yes, whether you're
It-
wearing a dress or not,
or not.
they are expecting you to
Ujifunge
be.
leso.
Yeah, unajifunga, yes.
And I did not know that. And I remember
Yes.
I did not know how big it was until someone told my mom in my presence, you know, umsela wako ni mzuri amejifunga leso. And I was like, the way she's the one who came with it, because me, I'm defiant. I ain't doing this. Mom is like, tafadhali jifunge.
Yeah, there's
And those are the
Yeah.
nuances
Yes.
that we are
We
discussing.
don't know,
Yeah.
So,
right?
so now, as we're talking about those nuances, Ruth, your sister had a front row seat to your
Yes,
life in
yes,
Kenya,
Yes.
and she watched part
should
one of this
call in.
episode.
Yes, she did.
What was her reaction after she watched part one, Ruth?
so she watched it with my sister-in-law.
Okay.
And one of the things she said, like, you're too open. What are you talking about? Everything. Which is something I found in Kenya. People don't talk
Privacy.
Correct.
about the things we talk about as if it's nothing. To them, they're like, but why are you telling everybody everything? I'm like, it wasn't everything. It's a fact. It's like, yeah, but we don't share that much. So it wasn't said in any. I think right now she understands me that I just talk. But she did say that was one comment she made. But she also said, "Oh, naona sasa unajua Nairobi sasa, you know, so sako police sana." So there was that. She was like, "Okay, nilisikia ukitaja mahali na places, so I'm not too worried about you when you come back." But then she was like, and I was like, "Can you write the things, you know, your point of view that you saw me struggle with, you know?" And my sister says, I told you guys she's a good writer. I wish she'd just write a book. But she wrote me a list, which I'd love to read it. It was like, so I did try to get her to give us some audio, but she was like, that will not happen. She'll write. So, but I can read what she wrote.
Mm-hmm. So what did she write?
Oh, do you want me to read?
Yes, what did she say?
Okay, sec.
Maybe
So-
we'll give her
So
3.6 minutes.
Yeah,
Well, it's
and if you can just read, you know, like, because I
Pull
know
up.
there was a whole, you know, like there was a whole essay she wrote.
Yeah.
Dissertation.
So if you could read
Yeah.
just us briefly.
Briefly on them.
Yes.
I'm too trusting, and I pity people too much, even when they're taking advantage of me, and I wouldn't know it. But I would be like, but then she said you're too trusting. But I think that is remember when I said Kenya has a trust deficit?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we trust people at their word here.
Yes.
In Kenya, apparently you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to dig deeper
Yeah.
to why people are telling you things, which is
Kabisa.
really hard because I'm not used to that.
Okay.
Then the other thing was people not being truthful on small things. A good example was like a taxi driver says nimefika, but they're 2 minutes away.
Okay.
I don't know whether you guys experienced
He's
that.
giving you time to come downstairs.
Exactly.
Because even you,
And
I
put on your
think
shoes.
because his expectation
I
is
am
because you're also
downstairs.
lying.
I'm downstairs.
His expectation is because you're also lying.
Sinaangalia Uber. Sinajua I'm downstairs. Like, you know. So there's that.
Yeah.
Not being straightforward. I'm gonna read all of this. What tutaona, instead of saying no, speaking in parables that you don't understand. Utanunua chai, you think it's no more tea. I think that's one thing. Sometimes, especially in rural settings, you have to be quiet and stand back, even when you have a better alternative to a problem, and let them solve things their way. Most times, if you offer a solution and it backfires, you end up being blamed for that. And so you kind of have to let people figure things out, and not to bring confusion. She literally told me I was bringing confusion. Because I was offering solutions that probably were not translating to in the rural settings, right?
Okay.
That's what Esamulsa said.
Okay,
Remember?
coming with a savior mentality, savior
Yes.
complex. I
Yeah.
will save you from your
You
problems.
can't buy a cow for everyone.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Traffic chaos. I think I have refused to drive in Kenya. I can't do that. I've given up.
You're not the only one, by the way.
I would drive in the rural areas. When we go home, I would drive there. But when we're in Nairobi, no way. I'm not doing that. I've left it for the experts, and I'm not one in Nairobi.
Okay.
And then the other one was the shock in churches. I think this was one, because I remember, especially when you go to like the rural churches, some things they'll be like, oh my word. So let me just say what she said. She said, pastors being so judgmental or racist or tribal or sexist while speaking, and the members clapping in response. Have you guys not experienced that?
But Pastor Nganga is a very good nini.
Ali,
So-
Ali,
haven't
for
experienced
sure
that.
he
Yeah.
hasn't.
I haven't
For
experienced
sure.
that.
Yeah, you
because I
haven't.
don't go to church.
But like, can you see now Pasanganga na yuko kwa TV, right?
Yeah, that's
but like,
a
you have to remember.
televangelist.
But you have to remember. I mean, I think people have
Na
already
kona
accept-
wafuasi.
people have accepted him as is and whatever.
Exactly.
So this is me. I don't go to his church anyway. So I've decided that is who he is. Whatever. I'm not going to pay attention to that. But then I go to a church somewhere, and they're saying things, and I'm like, are we you're in support of
Well,
this.
give me an example, because like maybe I don't have perspective.
No, it's what my sister
because I
says.
don't go to
Literally, it's
church,
what what my sister says. They'll say something racist, or no, not racist. Tribal or sexist.
Like what? Do you have an example? Because I can't.
I like to
you're trying to
block.
get content.
I like to block things from my brain once they happen. That
So, but you're not helping because
but I know.
Give an example.
Okay, Mika will tell us. Mika will tell us. Give us an example, Mika.
Kama ile yenye wanaweka napenda kusema ya macheri zile.
Can we not, please?
Wow.
Keep that. Just go to Sanganga.
Okay.
Okay,
So
let's use,
yeah, that
let's
so
use
hizo ndo
Pastor Nganga.
tunasema like
Let's use
jokes
Pastor
kama
Nganga.
hizo like
Okay, like Pastor Nganga, I can understand.
Yes, but that's-
but is Pastor Nganga not an outlier?
No, it's not.
No,
Oh my goodness.
he's not. The whole point of it is that whoever is up there at the pulpit are looked at as this
no,
is the way. They are the ones
Ali
who are
remember
the
kuna siku ulipost kwa ile group ulipost
Yes.
ulipost clip ya politics
Yes.
where somebody was telling a female politician that huyu mtu akikuja enda umpatie raundi moja akatulia. Remember that? So
No, I
and
remember, yeah.
na watu wakacheka wakaclap
And people
wakasema
clapped,
hey.
yes.
So and remember that was in national TV, right? Those are national delegates of a very big party in Kenya speaking like that.
But now me,
So
my thinking.
it's normalized. Hizo ndo tunasema anashangaa yeye, she's appalled that such things come through easily.
I think my naivety too on this is that, of course, we've had the Pastor Ngangas and the Pastor Kanyaris, they always have these viral videos. It is my thinking, it has been my thinking that these guys are outliers. This is not this is not what you expect when you go to a regular church, like in a rural setting or even in...
So it's not all, I need to say this.
Yeah.
It's not all churches that are like that. Okay, I need to say that. But there is a lot of them that do that.
So we can't call Nganga and Kanyari outliers.
Not totally
No.
outliers.
Okay, wow.
Not totally
Okay.
outliers.
Now that is news for me.
Yeah.
That is news for me. So even as far as your experience, because the religious experience is part of also what you're experiencing, going back home. And of course, Kenya has been described as a religious society. Many diasporans have a certain image of what that looks like depending on when you first left Kenya. Because I think this has also evolved. Because even the idea of a Pastor Kanyari and a Pastor Nganga, to me, it's, and this is coming now from someone who's not a church goer, to me, it's something that seems new, like the pastors that we used to see on TV, kina Pastor Lai, kina Pastor Muiru, they had very respectable
And those are
preachings
there.
they
And-
used to give.
Yeah.
But now, we are having the Kanyaris and the Ngangas, being broadcast. But after spending a year in Kenya, what did you realize maybe might be misunderstood or oversimplified about how religion is actually being lived today, both in worship spaces and in everyday interaction? That's in Kenya.
Okay, so I will say that my church experience in Kenya was more richer than here because there's more community.
Okay.
There's more intentional community. And you know how me, I go to a church in an hour and a half we are done, right? And actually that is long for other churches, right? An hour and a half we are done.
Very long.
Right? Now, the church I went to Kenya, I think was a good 2 hours, 2.5 hours, right? It's just knowing nikiingia
Borderline
11
Yeah.
tunatoka 1.
So preaching the whole
1:30.
time.
No.
Gather.
So
It's a production.
I think the church I went to had a ton to do, but so it's not preaching the entire time. I think preaching was like 40 to 45 minutes. But there are things in which they have kids presenting there, and they really integrate Sunday school with the bigger church. It's not like, at least my church here is, we pray for the kids, they go to their church, and that's it, right? I think there was an intentional inclusion of the kids. So yes, they had their own time to go to Sunday school, but they were part of service in the beginning, and they'll do presentations, and it was very cohesive, right? So there was that community bringing a whole family together to church was very intentional. I'm not saying it doesn't happen here, but it's not to that level. Also, the time is given for like people to spend time in church. I don't know about you if you go to church or not, but like I know sometimes I go to church just to be centered. And yes, the hour and a half I go here is what I have, and I that would be good. But I think there's just something to being in a service where, and this is where, you know, we're not doing obligation giving. That is not part of the service. Like there's no the things that we hear about, the fanfare that is not positive is not there. It's not simple. It's a rich environment for service and worship. That was good. Now, every so often, I will not be where I go to church. I will not be in the city. I would go to visit somebody, and I'll go to a local church somewhere. I think 2 to 3 times of the times I went to some of these churches, I found things and I was like, tunafanya nini hapa? Amatofata tukuda kanisa kwa nini?
What do you mean?
I mean, because like the thing is, I don't want to talk about anything in specific because I try to block these things because they're very annoying. It's okay.
But remember, these are
my
things
sister
that
will call me and tell me, why did you say that? So I also have that in mind right now. But like one of the services I went to, nilitwa kuombewa.
They do that.
Yeah,
so they
nilitwa
call you.
kuombewa. Yeah, they call me to
do
pray
that
for me.
because you're a visitor a lot of times.
Yeah. It was
So they
not.
ask-
It was not the visitor part.
Or was
it
it
was
because
very
you looked-
specific prayer.
Or was
that
it because you look like you need to be
people
prayed
were
for?
people were upset. My family members were upset about it.
Oh.
I wouldn't want. Yeah.
okay, sawa,
Yeah.
sawa.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was
What?
not, and I'm just there like, okay,
Okay.
you know, and
so somebody snitched on you.
no, it was not snitching. You know, they know me, so they use the information they know about me
Okay. So
to
they use
pray
intel.
for me
So they
in front of
preserve intel.
everybody, and I'm like, it's not even intel. It's
Yeah.
very public information, but it's just how they went about it that was very.
Madhogs.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
like, really?
And maybe locally
Yeah.
that's a big thing. Ukiitwa kuombewa,
It's a
you know,
it's a
like,
big
yeah,
thing.
it's a big
It's
thing.
a big
It's
thing.
love, yeah.
Yeah.
Privilege.
Matter
Yeah.
of fact,
so you should have been happy.
I should actually have looked at it from a point of view of like it means well,
Recog-
right?
recognition.
But it's like really,
Yes. Yeah.
really.
Like
Yes.
this is the best way you could deal with me, really.
Yeah.
Now, let me also twist this a bit in a way that I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in your previous schooling experience, you know, like you went to a Muslim school, so a lot of people do not know this about you.
Yeah.
So while you're in Kenya,
Primary school.
that was primary school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have a very deep understanding
Yeah.
of you know, like the religion and the culture around it. While you were in Kenya, did you have a chance to interact with any Muslims?
No.
Or
Just sad.
or were you or did you see?
Oh
were-
yes.
Were they visible in any way to you? Any of that?
Can I tell you one experience I had?
Yes.
Do you know Kilimanjaro?
Kilimanjaro, the restaurant,
Yeah, the
one near
restaurant.
Jamia.
Yes.
Yes.
So I happened to be there,
Yeah.
and actually have a recording of this. And maybe I did something wrong, but I had never seen that.
Mm-hmm.
It was Friday, Friday time for prayer.
Time for prayer, Juma.
Yes. And just seeing
A sea of people.
a sea of people from everywhere, and some came with mats, and once it was time for prayer, from the streets to the mosque, and
Yes.
this listen, I know I went to a Muslim school,
Yeah.
but I'd never lived near a mosque. I'd never seen that. Remember, I came here after high school, so I really never got to like go to public spaces where they go for prayer.
Yeah.
I knew they go for prayer because we will stop school
Yeah.
so they can go to school. We'll break for lunch so that they can go for prayers.
Yeah.
But that would be it for me. I never seen it. this was the first time I was seeing it,
Okay.
and it was very amazing.
So you saw people, of course, because Jamia like gets flooded on Fridays.
Yeah.
So people, that street right between Kilimanjaro and Jamia Mosque
Yeah.
is closed.
Completely.
It's closed for people to pray.
Yes. That was amazing to see. I had never seen. I knew these prayers, but I never seen it in action.
And that's every Friday. And you know what I love about Kenya, you know, because as Muslims we've experienced, you know, like a lot of bad press. But what I love about Kenya, you see during Ramadan in New York, they were doing the Taraweh prayers, the prayers that we do every night, you know, like during Ramadan. We're doing them in Times Square. And there were all these people protesting, all these anti-Muslims.
Really?
Yes, with signs. It happens all the time.
Okay.
You know, like, what are these Muslims doing here? Blah, 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 and stuff like that. But in Kenya, like, that is very normal.
Yes.
It's a very normal thing.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows Friday, East
Prayer
Street,
time.
you know, itafungwa.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nobody.
Also, you can't really, just remember kufungwa, you can't really like
Yeah.
walk in it because people are like literally like performing. What do you call it, Ali?
Salah.
Solar.
Yeah.
You know, right on the street.
Yes.
So you'll be very disrespectful if you try to like walk there. Like I had to stop and like just watch it.
Yeah.
I think that is the closest thing I saw to my interaction with Muslims.
So when you go back to Kenya,
Yes.
I will introduce you to a couple of people. I think it is very important.
that would be great.
Yes, I think
That would
it's
be
very
great.
important
Yeah.
for you to interact with Muslims, especially like even in professional settings.
Yeah.
Because I find it very weird
Yeah.
that I still find myself as a unicorn. Like, I've met so many people here in the US who are telling me I am the first Kenyan Muslim
They've interacted
that I've
with.
interacted with here in the US. And to me,
Yeah.
that's very shocking. And it's a lot of people.
Oh, people, but you
Like
know,
people who are in the US,
Yeah.
you know, like, and they're like, oh, you're the first Kenyan Muslim I'm interacting with in the US.
what about in Kenya? Did they interact with Muslims in Kenya?
So yes, so I think in Kenya there's a few, you know, like who didn't,
Yeah.
and especially if you might have grown up in a rural setting in certain parts of Kenya where you would not see a Muslim. But I think things are really changing in Kenya nowadays, because even when you're traveling, you know, because of the penetration of Somalis almost in all counties. So there's a more visible presence, and there's also a more visible presence of Muslims in the corporate world, because we tend to be very visible, especially our women, because they wear hijabs.
You're talking about because they wear hijabs?
Yes,
or
because they wear hijabs.
Boboi?
It used to, you know, like when.
Because if that's the case, I saw them everywhere.
So when.
But I'm not using that as
So when Kina, my mom, were working during those days,
Yeah.
it wasn't allowed. Muslim women were not allowed to wear hijabs in corporate settings. You know Jamila Muhammad, Citizen TV?
Yeah.
She was the first woman in Kenya to wear a hijab on TV. And it was such a big spectacle. It was 1999 when she was on NTV. And I remember that day.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
There were Muslims before on TV, but they were not allowed to wear hijab. So these are some of the challenges that a lot of, you know, like non-Muslims may be blind to, that
Not
that
maybe.
people,
We are blind.
that people have been experiencing. Until very recently, there are schools that are still denying, you know, like girls
Yeah.
from wearing hijab.
Yeah.
There was one very recently
We are
that
still
talking
blind.
about. Yeah,
still
but that's an experience. I challenge you, Ruth, when you go back to Kenya.
Okay, so let me
Yes.
say this. Sorry. So when you said interaction with Muslims, for
Yeah.
me, I interpret that to mean personal interactions, like
Yes.
one-on-one,
Yes.
right? Which I did not, because I don't have the friends I used to have,
Okay.
right? Which is a topic for another
Yes.
topic by itself. Like
Yeah.
friendships have evolved, right?
Yes.
So I don't have in Kenya right now. Let me say access. I'm not gonna say I don't have a friend. Let me say I
Yeah.
don't have access right now
Networks.
to the networks I used to have. So I
Yes.
can't pinpoint to a Muslim friend right now that I can interact with.
Yes.
But did I see Muslim women around? Yes, I did.
Okay.
But to me, I did not read that
You did not
as
yeah.
I don't read that as like anything odd, something notable. It was more like
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Facebook is on fire. Like comments are coming in thick and fast. Like we are finding it hard to keep up with them. I think let me see where do we start? Because there's so many things that were coming in. The person with I don't know whether that's Chinese or Malaysian or Indonesian or Paraguayan, if that's a language. But he's saying there's no plan. Vitu kwa ground are different. I've invested heavily in Kenya and still can't afford to move. I'm now realizing I'm asset rich and cash poor. I'm liquidating assets and putting money in money market funds to enjoy interest and cash flow, getting rid of dead assets. Are you guys seeing guys coming back from days of Kibaki era? And then Mashalili here says, let me see. Mashalili says, you all know a self-deport also needs a plan. One way is not a plan. And then here, Washeke is saying Kenya's economy has worsened, and unless you are connected to the political elites with ability to plunder taxpayers' money, things are really bad. Mashalili is the lesser culture for some tribes asking for knowledge. And then Upper Esther Nasema, Ruth, you have nailed it on the rural on the rural preaching, bingo. And then hapa Steven JJ anasema Ruth wanataka kukuweka speed cameras at sijui billions, labda sasa tutashika adabu. Where is the server going to be located is my question. And then Mashalili anasema I agree, he's a televangelist. We fail to know people do things for media exposure or whatever you want to call it. Once you find what society niche is, you're good. And then Esther saying in the Dari South, we also make fun of rural West Virginia and its incest. Oh my goodness, Esther Mulusa. It makes its way into sermons as side jokes, but Americans have a clever way of telling jokes. And then Mashalili says, that's funny, I actually work for a company in West Virginia and now I see it. I always tried to be open. And then wow, these comments are so many. I will get back to them, but not to get distracted. Let me see. Yes, Ruth, we also got very thoughtful feedback from Professor Paul Zeleza, who's a Howard University professor of African Studies.
Yes.
Maybe for those who might not know him, Professor Zeleza is an internationally renowned Malawian scholar who spent decades studying diaspora identity and development. He has had deep ties to Kenya spanning over 40 years and most recently served as a vice chancellor at USIU from 2016 to 2021. Now, Professor Zeleza engaged you after watching part 1 of this conversation and offered both praise and critique. Can you briefly summarize what he said and how his perspective may have both affirmed and challenged your experience? Ruth.
So let me first begin by saying, and thank you for introducing Professor Zeleza. He's been my mentor since 2016. I want to believe that. And he's been a great resource, a great friend, somebody I can, I have access to just talk about my experiences as a diasporan, seeing as he's a diaspora scholar, and his study is the African diaspora in all its measure. Yeah. So I happened to reach out to him and say, hey, I was in the show. Can I send you the link to watch? And he did. And he said, I'm actually going to be in Silver Spring on Saturday. Do you want to meet up and just talk? And I'm like, listen, he says available. I will go meet up with him. And so and I hope he's watching. I sent him the link to watch today. So one of the things he talked about, I think in the beginning, he did say that he liked the show. He actually loved the show. Loved that you came with data on some of the things. But because he's a scholar, he was drilling down on the data. He really wanted to, and he has papers on there. So it's like, actually, I've written a paper on that. The data is on there, right? And so one of the things he did say was on the critic side was more like, it would be nice if, because this data is available, when we have these topics that we are quoting data, it would be good if we had some solid, because the data is actually available. And some of it is found in his work. So FYI, there's a great book. I think you guys should have him on the show.
Okay.
And I got you a solid. He is willing to come to the show.
Oh, nice.
So whenever you're ready, we can coordinate times and whatever. The other thing he liked about the show is we're talking about the experiences that we have. And one of the things he talked about was, when we go to Kenya, we have this experience that we really don't know where to place it. But he had the take of, let's look at it. We were some of the things we're talking about, we were comparing apples to oranges. And the bigger one was, education. Let's talk about education as the key one. He did say, yes, Kenyan schools are expensive compared to American private schools.
So Kenyan private schools
are expensive.
Okay.
Compared to American private schools. But it depends on which private schools we're talking about. If you're talking about middle-class private schools, yes, Kenya will be expensive. But if you're talking about elite private schools, Kenya is nowhere near it. And he said that we were comparing Kenyan elite schools with American private middle-class schools. It would be good if we could have comparisons on elite to elite.
So what would you call, for example,
ISK?
Yeah.
ISK is elite.
Okay.
Right? So if you're taking your kids to ISK or any of those schools,
Makini.
You're taking
Makini is not
so
elite.
I do not know the classification of the schools, so let me say that.
Makini is not elite.
But it could be upper middle class, right?
It could be upper middle class.
But so there was that. And then he did say, like, we need to, when we're talking about this, where we say it's expensive is because we're comparing apples and oranges and not oranges and oranges.
Okay.
The other thing he said is because we earn in the dollar, when we go to Kenya, we are comparing our purchasing power to people in Kenya. So when we go to Kenya, we actually land at mostly elite status, but then we probably live a middle class life in the US.
So what exactly does that mean? We land in Kenya on
At
elite
elite,
status,
because then
but we live a middle class life in
the
the
reason
US.
why, okay, even before I even go say, because right now, okay, there's a good example he gave. Remember when I was wearing this is S's sweater, and I say that is not really available to the everyday Kenyan.
Yes.
And he said, well, I went to Rodeo Drive once to buy something
In California.
and when I walked into the store, I was asking for the prices. But that is elite shopping, prices are not shown. But in Kenya, we talk about a sweater costing 4,000, that being very expensive for the regular Kenyan, because it's not made for the regular Kenyan, probably. Maybe it's made for the people who can afford it.
Yes.
Right? So I think that is one of the things that you say we need to be aware when we compare Kenya, these comparisons,
Okay.
right? And then when we say middle class, that we all know, I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna say a middle class in the US as compared to elite, because there are things I can't buy. I'm sorry. Like I'll go to a designer shop and I'll be like, I can't. This is my half of my paycheck. Like I can't just buy that, right? That is and somebody who has the money wouldn't even look at the price tag. We'll just pick it up and go.
Yes.
So I think that is one of the things when I say we are comparing middle class life to elite in Kenya. That's what I mean. Like, there are things we wouldn't do in America because we're not there. We're not at that level. But because the dollar goes far in Kenyan shilling, we're able to purchase the elite things in Kenya.
Okay,
But,
okay. I got
uh,
you. Mika.
when I say elite in Kenya, I'm speaking Uhuru Kenyatta, Jimmy Wanjigi.
Yeah.
I'm speaking like 20 families, right?
Yeah.
When I speak elite,
Yeah.
I cannot come from my earnings here and go compare myself to that. But when I'm speaking middle class to middle class in Kenya, the middle class in Kenya have money too.
I think what Ruth means, because I got to listen to the conversation that Ruth had with Professor Zeleza, and what I got from that conversation is in Kenya, the class for Kina Uhuru Kenyatta, it's very thin. It's very few people. You know, like it's
It's
very few
That's
people. But then, like there's the upper, like there's the wealthy people who are not in Kina Uhuru Kenyatta's class, but they're still super wealthy. So I think what Professor Zeleza meant is that you as a diasporan, you can go in Kenya and be in those circles, and go to places, whether ni Muthaiga Golf Club or whatever places they're hanging around, you can go and do the exact same things they're doing. Not that you have as much money as they do, but you kind of...
You have access, money-wise.
You have access, yeah. You have access.
Your money gives you access.
And here's the interesting thing, like people in Kenya get very shocked at how, for example, you see like the way we just have access to politicians here, like they're no one, like politicians who you would never even come close to in Kenya. So people in Kenya, like even like when I would talk about it, they'd be like, hey, yani mulika tu mkaongea na Sifuna.
Yeah.
So it's a very big deal.
It's a big deal.
But we do not see it
that way.
Because I think we've lived here for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we are seeing that as a normal thing.
Yeah.
When it's not.
A good comparison would be pick a senator in the US of the same stature as Sifuna in the US and tell me how much access you have to them.
But
zero.
That is what Kenyans have.
Zero.
But then this is what you guys are missing in this comparison. When you're doing this comparison, the thing is this: when you're moving from here to Kenya, right? Let's say I am an average guy who works at Google. I make $250 a year, and then I decide to move to Kenya with my $250 a year, right? I will find there are companies in Kenya who also pay people the same amount of money. And those are the same people I'm going to be neighbors with them in areas like Karen, Runda, and Gigiri, all those high-end places, right? I am not going to be anywhere closer to the rich. See, wachana the wealthy. The rich, wenye tunaweza sabu kama kina Murkomen or kina Chandaria, or we're not talking about the elite families, these people who we are calling rich. I will be nowhere near them. I will be near other professionals in Kenya who make that kind of amount of money. I see you somewhere, someone who works in the UN, someone who works for another multinational, a businessman. Those are the people who I'll be neighbors with. Are
you a CEO
right?
though?
No. Forget even saying as no. I'm saying if I'm moving back with the same amount of market, the $250 I'm making from Google.
So there's money and there's position. Please put them together.
Forget position. I'm saying in terms of money, right? I'm trying to simplify it and just saying in terms of money. So I'm not going to be the people I'm going to be living next to are not going to be in a higher class The reasons why we have access to politicians over here is simple. It's because of the money we're giving them. That's why they access themselves to us. We are not important than anything else. Ni pesa yetu tu wanataka. Yes, in Kenya, hata jishughulisha na watu, but then in Kenya, when it's time for them to look for money, they behave in, ningetumia jina ingine, but how do they behave themselves when they know they have to, they're going to be in a situation to benefit them? Wanaendaga geto saa zingine wakijua ni time ya kura, wanatembea na watu geto, wanaendaga mpaka kula kwa vibanda, wajifanya wao ni watu wa vibanda. They can morph, and so politicians interact with politicians, not something they can call us. But then, if you're saying that in my normal American money that I'm moving back to Kenya, and I'm earning the same amount right now and I'm going back to Kenya, I am not going to be among the wealthy in Kenya. I'm going to be among the people who are well off, who are rich, niko sawa, but sitakuwa kwa class hata kujiweka elite.
Ruth, I'll let you respond, because I think also because only you and I are the ones who listen to that conversation with Professor Zeleza.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's not coming out very clearly, but I'll let you respond.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know how to okay. So I think, Mika, the reason why I was trying to say include position in that analysis you're trying to make is because if you're making $250,000 a year in the US, number one, you're really either at or close to upper middle class in the US.
That's actually, it's very few people who make that kind of money
Exactly,
in the
because
US.
183 is when you start getting to upper middle class. 183,000, right? So I need you to know that if you move to Kenya at that amount and that's what you're making, I need to know where, not I need to know, but I think you to get to know where in the what position you hold at work at that amount, because there are people in the US who make 250 and they're not CEOs. They're not that, in the leadership of companies.
People in sales make that money all the time.
Exactly, right? But that how many people in sales in Kenya, and they make a good money for Kenyan market. But 250, if you go to Kenya as a salesperson making 250,000, you're living the life of a CEO. Like this top.
That's a lot of money in Kenya.
That's a lot of money,
Actually,
right?
Yeah.
So what I think what I'm
That's
trying to
a
say, Mika,
whole lot of
is
money
the
in Kenya.
lifestyle that you afford at that price gives you access to either to positions of power. Let me say it gives you to people who have power than if you're actually making a middle class salary or upper middle class salary in Kenya.
The thing is this,
Yes.
we were talking about, right? We were talking about, it was simple as this. We were talking about, when I started doing the comparisons, and I remember doing the comparisons of schools and everything, we were talking about, I am deciding to relocate to Kenya, and I am deciding that I am not losing my quality of life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The quality of life I'm getting in America is the same quality of life that I'm going back to Kenya. So in America, I am living in a 4-bedroom house with a basement, right? Has a driveway, has everything. That's what I want to Kenya. And then what do I say? I'm in a single family. I want a single family in Kenya. I want a good neighborhood. I want a rich neighborhood. And that's when we compared, where will you go? If you're living in Montgomery County, when you want the same vibe, where do you go? You go to the suburbs, and we counted the suburbs on what we are comparing, right? And then we said, you want your kid to study in the American system. And that is where we said you'll have to take them to an international school. It will force you, and we categorically say that it will force you to dig deep into your pocket than you would have dug here. Because here you could have taken them to a free school or even a private school here, which is cheaper, because in Kenya you'll have to take them to a class that is above you. Right? That's why we said it's going to be expensive, because very few schools offer that international category of education. So that we were not comparing, we were just saying, for you to continue that same quality of life, you have to pay that certain amount of money. Right?
But even
yes, we are. So yes, it's you will when you want to continue having the same quality of life, and you with the same salary that you were getting in America and you're converting it into shillings, it's gonna push you to some places whereby you're going to gain. You'll feel like you've gotten a better deal, and in some places you'll feel like you're being hardened. And we clearly say that in terms of housing, it's not that different. The only good thing is that Kenyan houses are finished better. You'll get a house that is much more beautiful, much more the finishing is way better than what you'll get in Montgomery County, but it's going to be nearly the same price. Education-wise, where you would have saved in America, is going to be more expensive for you. But then in terms of gas, it's going to be expensive for you in Kenya, but then in grocery, it's going to be cheaper on you. So we said there's no clear indication of where you're saving or where you need. Probably in Kenya, you're going to save a bit, but we did say that there's some places whereby you're going to be able to, in Kenya, you'll have to pay more than what you'll pay here.
I think, I think, by the way, Mika, I'm not disputing what you're saying. I think what I'm trying to say is that lifestyle you go to live in Kenya is only accorded to the wealthy and I'm not going to say elites, because it did, even Professor Zeleza said that there are super wealthy people in Kenya. So like he did say that. So let's not
even by American standards.
Even by American standards.
Yes,
so
a lot. And that's what I was pointing to.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about where you end up living in Kenya, coming from the US with a middle class income or living a middle class life. Where you end up living in Kenya, it's not middle class in Kenya.
It is not.
It is not. I think that is what he was saying.
Yeah, like people, and I think where the confusion comes with us diasporans sometimes is, and I'll say this very kindly, sometimes, because in Kenya, there's very few people, like even if you look at people who make over 100,000 shillings, it is very few people, and these statistics are there, and that's both in the formal and the informal sector. It is very few people. So sometimes when we talk of like middle class, you're actually rich, but you're just scared of calling yourself rich. When you look at Kenya as a whole, there's very, very few people. When I saw those numbers, I was completely shocked. And when you look at, like, for example, what people who are said to be in a fairly good job is being paid, unasikia mtu analipwa 40k or analipwa 50k, which to us sounds like that's a very small amount of money, but that's where majority of the people are. And I think also part of what Professor Zeleza said was comparing, you see, like when we're looking at ISK, we are comparing it now to maybe some Catholic private school here. Yet we should not be comparing ISK to some private Catholic school. We should be comparing ISK to where Obama took the kids in Aitwajeni Sidwell's
friends. That one, exactly.
Now you can Google the fees there.
Now we can.
I think also another school that's up there in Izikina, Georgetown Prep, where Justice that Justice of yours, what is his name?
KBJ.
No, not Katanji, Kavanaugh. Yeah, I think that's where Justice Kavanaugh went to school, upper Bethesda. I don't know if that's Bethesda or Potomac. So I think that these comparisons that we are making, like that are not necessarily apples to apples, that he was saying. And then he also talked about how kids are experiencing, like kids who are born here are experiencing Kenya, which is very different from how
people are born in Kenya. Yeah.
Did you have any experience with kids who are born in Kenya, living in Kenya? Did you have any
born in Kenya?
No, people born. I mean, born in the US. I meant born in the US.
So, not directly, but I think if you go online, on TikTok, because they're documenting the experiences. You have kids born in the US, and I've gone to Kenya. They love it there, and they decide to live there. Some have actually relocated. and they're documenting their experiences. I think that is the closest I've had. It's fascinating to see them talk about the things I'm actually talking about, right?
Yeah.
More like time inefficiencies or wanagongwa. I think that is the biggest one. When you kugongwa
Yes.
is the biggest one, because I think if you live in Kenya for long and you have your American upbringing, programming, utagongwa.
Okay.
Sorry to say,
Yes,
utagongwa.
tena vizuri sana. Unagongwa in a way you think you got a deal.
Oh,
That-
by the
but
way,
umegongwa.
yeah.
That by default
Yeah.
is standard operating procedure. I think I
Yes.
shared an incident where my own mother, with her own business, there Monday through Saturday, Monday through Friday, she's there from 6 to 6. Sato anatokanga 2. Every day.
Yeah.
Alichezwa ile chafu.
Wow.
Ajabu, because she used to have a taxi business.
Yeah.
Utagongwa.
Yeah. So hiyo kugongwa, that's another
it's
thing
standard
that
operating procedure.
expect that it's gonna happen at some point.
Like rain comes, kugongo
So
lazima.
another part that Professor Zeleza talked about, I don't want us to lose this, is also politics and how we consume politics back home. Ruth, for many of us in the diaspora, we follow Kenyan politics very closely, from
Yeah.
protests
Yeah.
to campaigns and even Baba's death. We were here,
Yeah.
all the way through.
We were sad.
But we
Yeah.
are doing it from
Yeah.
a distance. Now, having lived there,
Yeah.
what did you see that we often miss or misunderstand about how politics actually affects everyday life on the ground? Ruth.
So, first, let me talk about Baba's death, because I was there when it happened, and I think for me, I was mourning from watching other people. If
So-
that makes sense.
So wait, so you did not mourn Baba?
I did. But I
Okay.
think
Oh,
other people around me, it was too personal.
okay.
The effect.
The effect than it was for me. Remember when he ran for office, whatever, I was watching online, right? But like when the songs, the people like, during the morning period, these songs that will play, people were like, that was an 07 song, that was a 2017 song. That like I did not have context to that. I'm learning this thing as it is happening, and people really connecting with the time, like the moments of Raila when he was alive, when they would show this, people really connect with it. That's when I realized, oh Lord, I am so removed from this society. Let me say that, because as much as I was sad that he had died, the impact I saw with people was way more than I had. Because to them it was live, it was there, they saw
Yes.
it. They would say, oh, kitu kifanyika, baba takuwa hapo.
Yes.
Oh,
It was part of
Yeah.
their everyday life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was online. It's like this Sifuna movement that is going on right now. I'm Team Sifuna, don't get me wrong, but like I'm really online. People on the ground, when he's speaking, this meaning to Sifuna, and they respond to him. Those are the people who are feeling it, right?
Yeah.
So that was Baba for people who live in Kenya. I am there, like, yeah, I'm mourning because I'm sad, but like this was another.
It was another level of sad.
to see how people are reacting to it. And if I can, I don't know whether I should be saying this, but if I can just go to my nephew. My nephew he was asking, so will we have another leader like him?
How old is he?
It's 10.
You know?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
So
now
All
it's
his
interesting.
life, he's known
Yes.
this guy.
That's what, yeah. So can you imagine? That's a kid. Like for me, I mean, okay, I'm also older, so I do accept death.
Yeah.
But for him, is like, number one, he's also seeing, his parents, his teachers, other adults really reacting to it. And so for him, he's like, okay, we must have lost big. Will we have someone else like him?
I mean, I think with Baba, because, like on the show, us guys have been, like in the weeds of Kenyan politics for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
With Baba, I think the only comparable death in Kenya to Baba's was Jomo Kenyatta, the first president, and we were not there. Maybe Nani might have been there, but
You won't call out names,
yeah, I won't
Omosh,
call out
but
names.
yeah,
but I think like even the previous
was a
presidents who
I
died.
even went to State House.
Even the
see his
president,
body.
yeah. Now you see, even the previous presidents who died,
Yeah.
Kibaki and Moi, they,
Yeah, they
like
did.
it was just regular business. It wasn't like Baba's
Yeah.
death.
Yeah.
Baba's death hit in a very different way.
Yeah.
And even here in the diaspora, people just found themselves in the embassy. Like it was random, and people decided to gather in the embassy. And I can tell you there were hundreds of people. There were so many people
Wow.
that people could not fit in that usual room.
That space.
Yeah, no, not the space. It was inside.
Or that room inside.
Yeah, the
Le
room inside. Yeah.
Okay.
So
where
people-
where you did the speech, or
where I made the speech.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So people could not fit there. So I think for you that was the biggest political, I don't know that to say, moment or
Loss for
the
me
biggest
from
political
Kenya.
loss that you experienced it
Yeah.
firsthand. That I think like most diasporans who are going about their regular business, not as connected to Kenyan politics, may not have an understanding
Yeah.
of how big this is. I think another death that might have been equivalent to this was Magufuli's death in Tanzania. Yeah, president. And now remember, Magufuli was a head of state.
Oh,
and that
wow.
shows you how powerful
Yeah.
and big Baba was.
Would I compare Baba to Magufuli?
Magufuli in terms of
I Because I feel Magufuli was a head of state, so there's that. I think Baba was never head of state.
He was
right?
never head of state.
But it was. I
But
think
his stature-
it was more than a head of state.
he was more than a head of state.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
yeah.
that's
You,
what
you
I'm saying.
cannot compare those.
You
You cannot compare both.
but I'm saying, like the reaction to the death,
okay.
like it was very big in Tanzania.
Okay.
Now with Baba's death in Kenya, even the people who disliked him the most, some of them were crying the loudest.
They were sad.
Yeah, and some of
They
them
were
were crying
sad,
the
yeah.
loudest. Even those who disliked him, those who visibly, and people now are coming out openly
Yeah.
and saying, ilikuwa ni siasa tu. But
There is Jamila. Is Jamila Mohammed married to her course? No. Ooh, there's
no, you're talking about Rashid Abdallah and Lulu. And Lulu
Lulu
Hassan.
Hassan.
Yeah.
they have, and I videotaped it. They have a really good eulogy
Yes.
for Baba. Like I cried at the end of it.
Yes, they are very good.
I don't think I would
Yes.
have had those moments of connection if I wasn't in Kenya at the time. I think it really helped that I was in Kenya for that.
Yes.
Because then I really understood the impact of Baba more than I would have if I were here. Remember, I have decided, let me call myself out. I'm a keyboard warrior politician. That's it.
Oh, so you're those of I don't do politics. You're those
No.
ones.
And you can't say that about me.
No,
you can't say that.
but what do you mean you're a keyboard warrior?
But
What
I've
does
said
that
that
mean?
my level of political engagement, whether here or in Kenya, is keyboard warrior.
And why do you say that?
Because I think I met people more passionate than me, more engaged than me, and with a purpose than me. I think for me, I'm engaged because we need good leadership, right? But there are people, this is their daily life. So they need better. They just don't want better. I want better. They need better, right? So I think I got to see that. And those people, honestly, they're not really online.
They're on the ground.
They're on the ground.
Okay. And I think that should be a challenge
Yeah.
to because I think Kenya has gone through phases whereby we are now entering another political phase. Since the Gen Z revolt, we are now entering another political phase. Before that, there's always this cavalier and very casual attitude, and it was even cool to say, "Oh, I don't do politics, by the way. That is not cool." But now, like once people start seeing how it's affecting their pocketbooks directly from here in the diaspora, and people are getting killed. And people are getting disappeared, then that activation, starts coming back. Like being into politics, is one of those things that I think within Kenya, especially within a certain class, it was considered something for poor people. Watu wa kibra, ama watu wa madhare, and that's the attitude that was there, where you would go, and it's very sad where you would go, and even up to today you would go. Someone doesn't know who their MP is. They don't know who their MCA is.
It's still the same.
But and then they will still be on social media, complaining and crying that this is not being done, or this is not being done, or when a certain leader wins and they didn't even register to vote, they're out there crying. I remember it was very embarrassing back before after Mutula Kilonzo passed away, and they tried to get the daughter Kathy Kilonzo to inherit the seat, only to discover that she wasn't even registered to vote. And I was like, this right here is wild, because your dad is a politician. You are there in court representing, the party, and then now we are coming to discover that you did not even feel like it's necessary to register to vote.
Okay. Can I point that is very similar to the US?
No, it is.
It's very similar.
It is.
Yeah.
The difference is that in the US, most of the time, in all fairness, yes, there's an impact, but the impact in Kenya is bigger.
Because we're small,
the impact in Kenya is bigger, because out here in the US, like your day to day, your trash being collected, your like those normal things, those very rarely change. Those are mostly local.
Yeah, but also I think now we know there are people here who don't know their don't know their local elected officials.
Wengi sana.
But they know nationally elected leaders.
Yes.
It's the same thing as Kenya. May not know my MCA, but one term.
Slogans,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slogans.
I was going to say, there's a time I think tukiwa Matchbox and Mike Mbuvi Sonko was running for
MP. Yeah, Makadara.
And we were very quick to administer US standards on how stuff is supposed to run. And how people on the ground are supposed to reason.
To think, yeah.
How people should navigate this, and it should be principle, and what has this guy done, a record, whatever.
Until we found out that Unga is
until Dombolo told us,
you
guys are not on the ground, because
he's
a guy, he's a voter huko not Embakasi,
no, he's a
Makadara,
voter,
Makadara
now. I think he's
he moved but Makadara. So he said, any of you, have you ever provided water for the boys who wash cars?
Yeah.
Have you ever provided water for them? Clean water?
Yeah.
No.
Free of charge.
Have you ever, the mamas, the ladies, your mothers, the ladies who sell mboga uko out there, have you ever provided for them umbrellas? No. This guy has brought clean water, so that the hustlers, the young guys, can wash their cars business, and make a living.
Did the umbrellas?
Wamama wanauzanga maboga na nini wako na mavuli, so that they cannot be chapod na jua.
Yeah.
How are you going to convince those ladies, those guys,
that he's not the
that there's principle when it comes to voting?
No, that's fair enough.
No.
He's the same guy who was giving Unga. Remember
that one?
He was the same guy.
Yes.
Unga.
So that's what I was saying. In terms of like thinking or trying to copy paste state 2,
what you're used to
hear, and 254. As soon as you enter that plane pale JK, IAD ama ni
JFK
ama ni Logan.
No.
Logan.
I think she left from here.
Houston or whatever.
Yeah.
Unachapa severance. Ukifika huko vindu vichenjanga.
Yeah, the
Back to
politics
earlier.
the politics is very different.
Politics and religion are huge.
Not saying that it's a good thing, but the politics is
It's not a good thing, but it's just one of those
it's
you have
entirely
to.
different. You have to understand the dynamics
Yes.
that are on the ground where
My friend.
like I know, for example, in Malindi, I think recently ndo imeanza kupanda ikafika shilingi 100. You can people will line up to get 100 bob to go and fill up a political rally. Like in places like Malindi, it is very easy to mobilize a crowd on short notice. On short notice, it is so easy. There's certain contacts that are known that if you need a crowd, wanakuuliza unahitaji watu wangapi, like 50 people, 100 people, and like within an hour, which goes to show
Done.
you these people are willing to line up for 100 bob and maybe spend a couple of hours there because there's a very high level of unemployment.
Yes.
That's
and,
one.
and just a lack of opportunities. So people are willing to do this. So there are people out there who know, like every little, like cluster of, let's say, a village or a cluster of houses, there's people who know people who know people. When the word goes out, these people will show up quickly. Hata kama mtu alikuwa amelala, ataamka avae nguo and they will be there.
Hiyo so moja
Yeah.
is huge. And by the way, Paul Waithaka hasn't called, but carry on.
Yes. Yeah. Again,
You
Paul, to
call.
call 202-683-4570.
Atanipigia simu alafu nitawaambia.
Press *5 to speak. There's someone here, Joe, on YouTube was saying you guys are comparing apples to oranges. Also, you are discussing as if Kenya equals Nairobi plus its affluent suburbs, which is very true. And then have you been to the countryside and witnessed the level of poverty? That's why I say, like this thing of pretending at the middle class when you're actually a rich person, whether you like it or
Lakini, unajua-
not, you're a rich person by Kenyan standards, because I think sisi tunaangalia rich in terms of the relative space where we are in, and in all honesty, like you go back even on a salary, you're talking about to 50k, even on 100k
Yeah.
USD
Yeah.
in a year, you are I can assure you you're in the,
Ali,
you're in the top
hatukatai
10%.
hiyo,
You're in the
hatukatai
top
hiyo.
10%
Lakini
in Kenya.
shida ni hii. Hakuna mtu anatoka hapa anaenda ushago.
No, we're not denying that. No,
Maybe Esther.
Probably not.
Esther Mulusa.
Probably not.
Unajua hata sitaki enda ushago ati anaenda ushago kulala kwa Simba. Arudi ushago anaenda ushago ila ndio ocha. Hiyo ni ile like the thing is this, even if unaona hata Omosha akienda Rusinga akiwaambia analanga kwa resort unafikiria anakuanga na wadanganya. Na hiyo resort ni yake. Si ni nyumba, the way he set himself up basically Kenya nasema ni
Ala.
hakuna mtu mwenye anarudingi home, right? Anarudingi back to poverty yenye alitoka, kama alitoka kwa poverty ama yoenda kusettle in the middle of poverty. So atucompare tukisema that just because we're trying to compare the moneyed side of Nairobi with you. So to say we are very aware that Kenya has poverty. We're very aware of where Kenya is. We are very aware of what is happening in the country. The thing is, as the professor said, let's try to have a conversation on comparisons that actually exist to exist. So ametuambia tuja compare elite to elite. Let's compare elite to elite, and we agree with that. Yes, fine. Hapo tu kufanya hivyo, but tusijaribu tena for the sake of it to add poverty on it, because nobody is living poverty here and taking poverty to Kenya. Ingekuwa ni hiyo ndo tukicompare.
Now, before we lose this conversation, Ruth,
Yes.
what blind spots do Kenyans have about US politics? Because in Kenya, people talk a lot about American politics.
Oh Lord.
People talk a lot and they have very strong opinions.
yes.
Yeah, on
yes,
American politics.
yes, yes.
What?
You have a
Let
lot of Trump
me
supporters. you
Laugh
have-
about that because
yes.
let's start with that. The Trump
Yes.
supporters.
I'll be very sure. Ikongori, but carry on.
I think as a child of the 90s, when I grew up watching shows like TBN. Do you know TBN?
Oh, God.
Is it Trinity Broadcasting Network?
That one.
That one.
Was it CBN?
No.
TBN.
Just
Ile ya
TBN.
nini?
TBN. Although I don't know where it is right
Ile ya
now.
Wakristo.
Yeah, it was a Christian show.
Boss,
So-
leave that to us. That's you're subject matter experts on that one.
But I watched Joy Bringers and Sing and Shine.
No.
That is
You are-
not part
Yeah,
of
there.
it.
You are very.
Yani ushago.
Yeah.
This is elite.
Oh, this is
Ini-
elite.
This
Oh,
is
okay,
this
okay.
is what do,
Yeah.
what do you call that? This is the
And they dance what 700 Club or something.
Yeah,
Ashio.
Yeah.
Ashio.
So if you grew up watching them, which I did, right? And they had really good programming around the Bible, Christian values, and I think that's where I learned. Well, it was part of, not just the only part, but I learned a lot about Christian music. This all of them
Kirk
that are
Franklin.
here. All of them that are here, right? They are going to introduce them from there. So if you grow up watching that, and all those people, John Hagee, and I can name other people, I've totally forgot. Like, I let go of that channel and do not watch it. It's been over 10 years since I watched it, right? So those preachers support Donald Trump. This is the right wing
The
evangelical,
right.
right? And they support Donald Trump. They support him as a Christian leader, whatever that means sometimes. That apparently walimwombea akaokoka, and they're calling him a baby Christian for a moment there. So because a ton of people grew up watching that, right? And so accepting Donald Trump as an elected leader and actually chosen by God is part of the narrative, right? And so that when you see them support Donald Trump, it's because it's been a long game education, conditioning from the 90s. Right?
yeah.
Because you've been watching this
Conditioning.
particular person, they
Yeah.
teach the word of God. And they were really good teachers of the word, right? Though, Kitambo, honestly, they were really nice. They taught really well until somewhere Obama became president and they
lost it.
They lost it, right? And then you'd find, because then when Obama came, there are policies that pass through his administration, like they don't ask, don't ask, don't tell.
That was during Clinton, I thought.
No, Obama is the one who whatever happened with it.
Passed it.
Sorry.
So don't ask, don't tell was during Clinton, but Obama allowed them to openly serve. Yes.
Sorry, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. So because Obama allowed them to openly serve,
Yeah.
that became an issue with the Christian right? And guess what? Because that is Christian not education, wherever that is, teachings.
Indoctrination.
Anybody who listened to them people went the same way. So they thought that Obama was wrong to do this.
So would you say a lot of the Trump support that's in Kenya is mostly based on that
Evangelical,
on the
right.
evangelical teaching?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
The Bible.
Yes.
Okay.
Because again, I call it the long game. Our
Yeah.
Kwanzaa Jana, we didn't start this relationship with these people the other day.
Yeah.
Zilianza in the 90s. So it's been a while. So by the time Obama is coming into office, number one, in the beginning we are okay with Obama. Then some of these policies that come up and people feel they're anti-Christian, Christian. Then they're like, oh yeah, he's wrong. Then Trump comes and says, "Kwanza yontatoa," So of course he's literally playing into what the Christian right want,
Yeah.
and that's what they're teaching their masses.
Yeah.
See how it translates to support of Trump.
Yeah, and
so
Trump reads 2 Corinthians.
exactly. Right? And so imagine Kenya being such a religious country that believes God ordained things and people, see how that can.
But,
And
but
to what she's saying,
Yeah.
don't forget the support for Israel.
Let's not even go there.
yes. Oh my goodness.
So
Yes.
it
Let
comes
us-
from
let-
there. The Christian right have been pro-Israel
Yes.
all along. So
Can I say Israel?
it's
sorry.
it's been a conditioning over decades.
Okay.
But so when we're blaming them for supporting Trump, not really fully understanding the moment, is because the subsect of the people they follow in the US are fully on it.
Now, like, let me first of all read a few comments here, because this is also another very interesting topic. Hapa, Estamulusa nasema the 700 Club, Trish, the Bible Belt folks. Marsha Lily is saying, when it comes to American politics, I think we try to play safe as immigrants. Also, ignorance is a great skill. Go with whatever trail is moving with most society, which is so sad. No stand everything as an immigrant to have a plan, not to go deep, but watch what's happening now, consequences. Minister Mulusa says Billy Graham said that Ronald Reagan went to heaven. When asked if Obama is a Christian, he said he was not sure. And then Washeke says the issue in Kenya is KK evangelicals are very influential in Kenya, and they use their past strings to condition and influence policy. Now, here's my other thing, or maybe I could be observing something that's not there because I am looking at things from here. I feel like, especially our generation and younger, and me, I'm speaking from the outside. Of course, I'm a Muslim, I'm not a Christian, but I feel like the Christians have become much more removed from the church, or much less Christian, for lack of a better word. It's kind of like I'm
You
trying
can
to
say
find the right-
removed.
yeah.
I think I know what you're
Yes.
trying to say, Ali, because yes, millennials and Gen Z
Yes.
have left the church in
Yeah.
droves.
Yes.
And they're not leaving the church in the sense of, there are people who are like totally even living like they're not living Christianity, they're just
Yeah.
living
The church,
the
the
church
organized-
itself, the
yeah.
organized church.
Yeah.
Because again, going back to this TBN, we had this people who taught us the word of God, literally explaining it, and we're reading with them. It was called exposition, because they read the word and we go,
Kuchambua.
yeah, verse by verse. And these are the people who taught us that, right? Tell me why Obama comes to be president and they all turn to be racist. And we're like, but what you taught us
She has a
is not what you're trying to do.
But what I'm trying to understand
Yeah,
is
why we're leaving, why
is
people are
these Trump
leaving.
supporters,
Yeah.
if they've left the church and they're no longer being influenced by,
But then
by
Ali-
TBN,
Yeah.
so where is this Trump
Ali,
support
Ali,
coming
Ali,
from?
Ali, I can answer you on that.
Okay, Mika.
So you have to realize that one thing is Kenya has one of the best internet presence in the world outside of the first world. Right? Like a lot of Kenyans are online. A lot of them. Watu ushago,
Yes.
watu online wako kila mahali.
Yes.
The biggest, most active social medias in Kenya ni TikTok, Instagram, na X, right? Na Facebook. When X was taken over, and a lot of those white supremacist, manosphere,
Yes.
misandrist accounts came in and were just putting all these divisions and everything. The one thing they did, number one, is talk down black culture and talk down diversity and talk down everything to a point whereby most of them were conditioned to hate. They were conditioned in a way that America is just a place that is so woke, broken down, and like it's losing itself, and Trump is coming to save it. And remember, we've grown up with that religious mentality, right? Religious mentality in Kenya covers all three big religions. Hindu, Islam, Christianity, we have all been raised in strict religion in that country. There's some religion influence that has happened in your house, regardless of what religion you are. There was some religion influence that happened in that house. So you will not be so forgiving to things like being openly gay. And when you get misinformation about things like transgenderism and how it's going to work and abortion and everything that they the right try to misconstrue on what the left were doing and sold it out as propaganda when they bought those social media platforms. Facebook sold themselves also. Like basically these elections, the left control the social media narrative on everything. And that managed to convince a lot of young people in Kenya on what they're saying. And then if you see them right now, when they see what's happening, when they're seeing things getting exposed, when people are posting those fateful moments, they're learning and they're also confused. They're like, wait, we thought that these guys like this, they're confused. Like we thought Elon Musk was talking to us here, like they're confused about that. So that played a part in that, a big part in it. The same way it played a big part in the elections here, it also influenced the spectator. And it was not Kenya alone. All around the country. So when Trump won, there was a wave of these white supremacists that was coming around the world. Yeah? Ilijaribu kidogo places and then ikazima. And now it's disappeared. So it affected everywhere, and it did play a big part in Kenya.
So can we credit, like a lot of the Trump support we are seeing in Kenya to a lot of those, especially like, were they Red Pill Manosphere podcasts?
Oh yes, we can.
That were promoting it to the point that Charlie Kirk had a whole memorial.
Yes, we can.
In Kenya.
We can.
And yeah, but coming back to you, Ruth, was this support that you were seeing, this Trump support, was it an outlier, or was it also something that you would say quite a few people had support for Trump from your experience?
I think it's very... I don't know how to put this. So not everybody, but the people who think critically be like, yeah, this is not how a Christian operates, right? So there's that. But there's also the part that people who think that is God's chosen. And when you get to that point, you really can't argue with God's chosen, can you?
Wow. So, okay, besides the support for Trump, what else were you seeing with how Kenyans were consuming American politics from your interactions?
That is interesting. Can I say I literally unplugged? I think normally when I'm here and I'm back to this routine of what every day waking up and listening to Up First, the Wall Street Journal, and just like news in every morning about what happened. And if you live in the Trump world, that is the first thing you're gonna hear.
Yeah.
Right in the morning. Any news updates right now? Trump did, Trump said, whatever. I did not listen to American news
while you were in Kenya.
So but also I detoxed. But also I dialed down on Kenyan politics because even it was crazy.
Okay.
I was like, no. So if it affected my day to day, I have updates where I can see what is happening. And so with that, I bring in my working hours, which meant I had less interaction with people. So most of my interactions about politics in any way were in Uber.
Okay.
Uber rides.
Naderewa Uber.
Naderewa Uber, when we talk tunaongea, most of them were... yeah, that is where I got to learn Kenyan politics. I really was not trying to sell at I don't even live in Kenya. It was more Niko Kenya mini one term tuendelee.
Okay. Okay, now fair enough.
Yeah.
As we close down upper, returnees.
Yes.
I'm not sure how many returnees you interacted with while you were in Kenya, but from what you observed during your year in Kenya, what is the general state of diaspora returnees? Are they mostly thriving? Are they surviving? Or are they
depends.
quietly struggling? Or it's a mix of
It's a
of all?
mix. I saw some that were thriving, doing well. Though, again, and I know that because I met them, they are willing to meet.
Okay.
Someone who's struggling will probably not want to
We
meet.
will not want to meet, yes.
Yeah, will not be
Okay.
available. So I can't really speak to that.
Okay.
But the ones I did interact with were doing well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, and for us diasporans, you know, mostly diasporans here, there's a lot of romanticism of life back home.
Yeah.
And this is from people mostly, I think the ones who've never been to Kenya, like in 20 years, they know that they have a blind spot. Those of us who regularly go, I think we're the most notorious ones for the romanticization because we have that vacation.
Yeah, you're going to the vacation high.
Yes,
all the time.
we're going with the vacation high all the time.
Yeah.
What are some of the things people tend to glamorize online but rarely talk about honestly, you know, about the situation on the ground as diasporans?
Oh, that's please, okay, ask it differently.
So what I'm trying to figure out here is there's
Yeah.
certain things that are generally glamorized
Give me examples. I
by
think would be
people
nice.
in the diaspora.
Give me an example.
So an example is like, for example, like you can, like, life in Kenya is cheap, you know, like you can get, you know, like the same quality of life
Yeah.
you know, like at a
Which
discount.
is true.
Yeah.
I'll say, which is true.
Yeah.
Son school fees, if you're taking your kids to international schools,
Yeah.
without counting that,
Yeah.
it actually is cheaper.
Okay.
And I have to add this to that conversation. If you're still earning dollars and spending the shilling,
Yeah.
it's true.
It's cheaper.
And that what would happen is then you, because you have more money in your pocket, you start suggesting expensive things to your friends who can't afford the things you're suggesting them to do.
Okay.
I think that is where, and that's why sometimes I'll say when they decide that you're paying the bill is because you suggested they go to a place they can't really pay.
Okay.
They can decide to go Dutch,
Yes.
you know, but that's an American concept,
Yeah.
remember,
Umeza
right?
kibanda.
Yeah, but I'm here saying to the place, you know, I remember somebody
Kibandas.
telling me, I said, let's go to this place. Like, yeah, chakula ko inaanza 3K. I mean, I'm like, so? Right?
3K is a bargain. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Us
Oh,
Even
is
even
it-
even like
shopping for 2 weeks.
alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol is the bigger one. You know, like
Yes.
you know, say the guys from here are going home and they're looking at say I don't know Balozi. No, maybe guys in Kenya are saying they'll do Balozi, but you want to do a malt. So and then malt costs differently in
Yes.
different places. If you're going in the estates, you know, you're at Sombili Chwani or whatever, and then these are the and they are
There's
that's
a price
that's
point.
affordable
By
to
the way,
them.
price point.
by the way, like you know here how Jack Daniels over here ni
Yes.
Uko Jack Daniels is considered top echelon.
And it could be fake.
That is one.
Yeah.
Yeah, depends on where you go.
Where you go.
Depends on where you go.
But
And-
still,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
considered. You know, like it's not like I know you don't partake,
Yeah.
but in terms when you look at levels, it's like it's JD in Kenya is revered.
Yeah. I think from a food perspective, we could compare it to KFC. KFC hapa ni
Lakini,
maskini.
lakini
Yeah.
Uno,
Yes.
when it comes to alcohol, it isn't just a taste. And then people put class on that taste because
There is
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
because for a guy who drinks rye whiskey, unaweza mpatia the oldest single malt and it won't do them for the taste buds, but then umpatie JD and it does everything for the taste buds and vice versa.
Okay.
I'm not arguing with
Aya.
that. Okay.
Aya, sawa. Time ndo hiyo hapo.
Yes.
We'll have an episode for that. But I think for those who don't partake, a good example is KFC. Hapa ni chakula ya maskini. but back in Kenya, it's a whole different story. Now, another thing that I also did not want to miss. These are just quick fire here, Ruth. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about diaspora Kenyans by people living back home, especially those of us who've lived here more than 20 years? What do people misunderstand most about us, like with your experience there for a whole year?
Okay, so what they misunderstood about me. Number one, I don't speak the language, which was like, or I should have forgotten it by now.
Also, they think that you should have forgotten
Kamba. Or even Swahili.
Very
Even
shocked.
Right.
Very shocked when you are able
When you
to speak it.
And
Yeah.
I speak it with the local dialect, right? So like I'm not
We must help.
Yeah.
Or you don't have a twang.
I do not.
Okay.
Tia.
Yeah.
I do not. So that is something that they're shocked about me because I've lived there for so long. The other is they think you're rich. They think you have.
Well, rightfully so.
Yeah, but
You have
rightfully
dollars.
so. Which remember when I said because what you're earning lands you at a different class, like at a very high class than
In Kenya.
Yeah, in Kenya.
Not here.
So, and if that like kama ukutoka ama if that's not your family was living like that when you left,
Yeah.
then you're very so they're like, where alienda majua kona pesa, must be very rich.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, kwenye niko, this is regular life. It's
Yeah.
like me and you, right?
Yeah.
But then also again, nikikwambia tuende place ya kukula 3,000 and above,
Yeah.
that becomes a dissonance for them. What do you mean you wewe si rich and then unafanya vitu kama hizi? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah. I think this the biggest one. I think it's the misunderstanding is also maybe tumeacha mila,
Okay.
which for me, yes, I'll take that critique. And some of it I have decided I am done. I ain't doing that. But that's me.
Umekuwa mtumwa.
Nimekuwa mtumwa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aya.
See kabisa,
Yeah.
but in some
some
aspects,
respect.
in some
Okay.
aspects that nimekuwa
Yeah.
mtumwa.
On the one for language, like I can identify with. I remember there was this place we went where, I mean, the people there knew about me and I've been in the US. So there were these ladies who are consistently trying to talk to me in English and mi nilikuwa naongea Swa.
So yeah.
Yeah. Back at some point,
Yeah.
like someone made a comment.
Yeah.
Akasema, huyu mtu hapa ndo ametoka US, naongea Kiswahili, and they were responding, like mi naongea Swa,
Yeah.
like, and they were insisting
Kizungu.
on responding in English. So
Oh no, they're not. It's not about you. Also,
So-
I've noticed there are
so-
Kenyans who just don't think speaking Swahili is cool.
but now here is the funny thing. They were speaking to Swa when they're speaking with other people.
It's Swa.
They were speaking in Swa.
Oh,
But
so
to
just
you,
to
it's
you.
Yes.
it was
Because the
English.
ones I'm talking about, they do not speak English
Yes.
at all.
Yes.
Not Swahili at all,
Yes.
even when spoken to.
Yeah.
It's even mother tongue.
And they'll
Yeah.
translate, right?
Yeah.
Oh no,
They
you.
do the translation, everything, even in mother tongue, right? Like they don't speak mother tongue as well. These ones that you're talking about.
I don't know about them. I know the Swahili and
Okay.
English. So you
Yeah.
speak them in Swahili, they'll
They'll respond
understand
to you,
you.
yeah.
They respond in English.
respond in English.
Surprisingly enough, let me support your point. There's that, when you go visit and you're speaking Okuyo, there's a look, when you speak in the mother tongue, there's a look that you're given. And then somebody will be like, Yani, because for me, my Kikuyu was horrible when I left.
Yeah.
When I came to Seto,
None
it was Madogs.
Yeah.
Period. When I went back,
It was better. It was good.
hey, they were like, wait, ulienda huko Kikuyu ka? I'm like, yeah. Kwani shida iko wapi? But they, like, before you start telling them, listen, when you're not there, you don't understand the lack, the need, the desire, the want to feel like, what, you
Connected.
start craving.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I told my mom, like for the Kikuyu speakers, we've got some local talented comedians called Mashangi, like they do Kikuyu comedy. I was like, I told my mom, nilete hizo vitu because I wanted to learn Okuyo. not to say
Understood.
that, because I have people here with whom that I would hang out with. Na kazi yangu was just to listen. Then, Kameme FM. I'm just listening because I need just to sharpen my lingua. People were shocked.
Wow. Okay. So that's a good one. Now, is moving back to Kenya for everyone, Ruth? Are there diasporans who might actually be better off just staying here?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
With
Yeah,
the
you say that
quickness.
very
You say that
With the
swiftly.
quickness.
Yeah, it's like you had people in mind. Like this person cannot go back home. They should just stay here.
I think my sister would tell me I'm number one. I'm example number one. My sister Beverly will say I'm example number one. How many times she was like, I think Rudy to Sasa.
Yeah?
Your sister.
My
Your own
sister.
sister. Yeah.
Who loves me very much and I love her too. And I really enjoyed living with her. Yeah, she was like, I think kama umelemewa sasa. Not that nimelemewa, just my expectation never changed. I kept expecting.
Yeah. You had
Things-
you had diaspora expectations.
Completely,
Yeah.
and they
is
never
not a
went
good
down.
thing.
Yeah.
They never went down, and I think I'd never prepared for that. I remember to me I was like, "Deuces nimetoka," so I was like, "Nimeenda." But I'll tell you, I don't like. I think going to Kenya, if you decide to go to Kenya and make that a permanent move, you have to decide to also change your mindset. Just like, and I know when we came here, we were younger. I'm talking about people came here when, like I did. We were younger and we were malleable. We're able to change our minds about things, our position on things. It's the same when you move to Kenya. You have to change your mind on things, your perspective on things. You have to accept the local way of doing things, whether you agree with it or not, because that's what you're there, right? So that is the biggest part. I'll say, if you're not planning on that piece when you move, you'll be back. Let's remove the money part. Maybe you have the money in Kenya, wherever. Let's say you have all that.
Maybe you have the soft landing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you do not agree with the mindset change, utarudi.
Of utagongwa and utadanganywa and all that.
Not even
And those
that.
are just like
Surface level.
chini,
Yeah.
very. It's just the day to day.
mental.
The day to day.
The day to day. And like,
Okay.
I don't know. Do you know unafika place you want to explain things to people? Unaenda unatoka tu.
Provide solutions. The American providing solutions to all the problems.
You know.
Directions on a nini, on a flowchart. Those things.
Those things don't. They don't. And you see one of those things are like speaking up or speaking out, like you're providing a solution.
Yes.
And you are the outsider.
Yeah,
When do
exactly.
Mjuaji?
Yeah.
How are you Mjuaji and we are the locals?
Yeah.
That, but they out because they're not direct
They're not
as you are.
direct, yeah.
Watakuzungusha tutaona, by the way, una make sense.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Una
Do you know how
make
many
sense.
times I've been told that by the caretaker?
And then they'll talk behind your
I've
back.
been told that by
Yes.
the caretaker.
Yes.
Yes.
Mazee ameniambia,
Yeah.
in fact, that's a very, very good idea. Kwanza and I'm like, this thing is making sense. We are 70 hours here. Nini.
Yeah.
The guy says, yes. Come back the next December.
Same.
WhatsApp group. In fact, it's even worse.
Yeah. One last thing, Ruth.
Yes.
What's that one thing
Yeah.
you wish someone had told you before you made the move?
Nothing really.
So you are good.
Whatever. You know, I think I'm the kind of person, let me figure it out. You know, it might take me longer. Because I think utania. Okay. But also I need to know, I was not making a permanent move.
So you
Big
are
difference.
testing.
Yes. Because I'm the person, let me test the waters for myself.
So are you still testing or have you fully tested it?
So I think one of the things I really need to figure out, and I spoke to a friend of mine who is in Kenya. He does this thing all the time. He said, Ruth, you have to make a decision where you live based on how you want to grow. Is it career? Then stay in the US.
Okay.
Is it socially? Probably come to Kenya.
Yeah.
But do you have the networks in Kenya? Or
Okay.
you're going to start growing them?
Yeah.
Right. So it's where you kind of have to have a long view of what you want in life before making these decisions. Right now, I like the access to family that I have. So the remote work helps me do the back and forth. But will I do it a year like I did last time? I don't think so.
You won't do a full year.
No.
Okay. So you plan to do like or within that window that's
Now I will respect the window.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now, let me add something.
Sure.
I think to summarize her point, and I think, and I could be wrong, but you can correct me. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I call him. He's called Mahatma Gandhi. He said that if mentally, above everything else, if mental, auko, you're not ready for change.
Yeah.
Uko, you'll be chewed,
Spit out.
spat out.
Kweli
Haraka
kabisa.
upesi. So
Yes.
mentally, there's a mental component, and it is something that, like she was saying, like Ruth was saying, like you forget pesa, forget K, lakini kama hauko tayari, because you have to be mentally ready to understand. You have to disconnect. You have to disconnect that portion of how things work in State 2 vis-a-vis how things work in Kenya.
Yeah.
You have to be mentally ready to understand that traffic violations and whatever.
Yeah.
You have to be ready to understand that that thing of you're being taken round in words. What do you call it? Breakfast? No, barafu. What did you call it?
Frozen water.
Frozen water.
Yeah.
Ama hiyo lunch.
Yeah. Lunch. Chai.
Kuna chai.
Yeah.
Kusema chai.
Kuna chai.
Yeah.
Alafu kuna facilitation fee.
Yeah.
That is you be ready for that. Unakumbuka ile story Dombole alikuwa anatuambia mambo ya Mike Movisongo. That one of
Yes.
is whatever. You have to disconnect. Like how I think this will be a good point, Mika. Unajua vile here you drive observing rules, stop sign,
Yeah. Without asking
questions. Lakini ukiwa Kenya, you're flagrant and everything else.
Because everybody else is flipping.
You know,
Because
what I
then you
usually
code
say-
switch, yeah. Go ahead, Mika.
What I usually say is this: the same way you adapted to here, adapt there.
Uh-huh.
Because the moment you live here and you live there, you are a resident of none of those places. You are a resident of both. So you cannot try to change places to conform to you. You conform to the places.
Adjustment, haraka upesi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, like I think one of the biggest mistakes that I can't speak as a returnee because I've never returned. I've only gone for vacations. The most I've stayed in Kenya in the last 20 years is maybe 6 weeks. But I think one mistake that we make sometimes is also constantly thinking that you have solutions to problems that you do not even begin to understand.
Ali,
Don't even.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting you say that. That's
Yes.
what everybody in Kenya says about us.
Yes.
That us guys of
Yeah.
diaspora come in thinking that we are the solution givers.
we are providing solutions to problems we don't understand. You see, this is kind of like, when there are these groups of, like high school kids who are taken to Africa, then they say they're going to Africa to help people build huts or
Yeah.
build houses. Who told, and these kids have no experience in building, they have nothing.
Yeah.
But then they're going all the way to another continent to help people build, like huts and houses. So you're like, did someone tell you that there was a problem of builders in that village that you're going to assist, or are you just going to satisfy your own fetish that you have, that you said that you're gonna one day say that, oh, I helped poor Africans
Community
build.
outreach.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. And another thing that I've seen that also irks me big time is this thing of you've gone back to your village, and this now I'm seeing this from social media. You've gone back to your village, you've gone to the closest supermarket, bought a couple of 32-page Kasuku brand exercise books, and then you took them in the middle of a school session and then you're gathering all the kids wache class watoke wakuja wapige picha na wewe with a teacher, you know, like accepting those exercise books na wewe unamsalimia. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
Community outreach.
Yeah, what are you doing? Yani ni mambo gani hapa? So I think those are the things that that we need to stop doing. The other thing that has been, you know, like a very different experience for us, especially those of us who were born and raised Muslim, is that when we come to America, you know, like there's that cafes, because we're brought up in very strict settings. There's a cafes you go through where unapata hiyo freedom, you know, like no one is watching you, you're doing whatever you want. But then, because that upbringing is there, there's a point where you come back, mpaka watu nyumbani wanaanza kusema ai nyinyi huko America sasa mmeanza kushika dini sana, because I think in America, you know, because of like the open decadence that's there,
You revert back
we
to-
start appreciating more the structures that and the foundation that we had, and we try to start, you know, like going back towards it. So it's very weird, you know, like when you start interacting with people who saw you in a certain light, and then sasa wanasikia ukiongea wanashangaa huyu hapa ni Ali anaongea hivyo hapo ama ni nini. So that's something that also, you know, like comes up with people who interact with those of us who've come to the US.
I was listening to a comedian, Tony Rock, alikuwa anasema,
Yeah.
like for black people, well, it's a comedic whatever presentation. You're saying that black people have got a long leash that is passed down generation to generation. Now, you know, like over here, they're told you better be home before the lights come on, before the street lights come on, or whatever. Lakini, for us, there's a way our parents instill some things in us when we were young, such that
the voice remains in the head. Yeah. Even
So
when
even-
you're going to do something wrong,
hey,
that voice, it keeps replaying.
that
Yeah.
one.
And it lives rent free.
And by the way, even in our age,
Yes.
it's still
Yes.
living rent free.
Yeah.
So,
Huyo mzazi.
No,
Maker.
no, me want to tell diaspora people one thing. When you're in Kenya and you're suggesting something, and then you hear, huko if atufanyangi hivyo, achia hapo.
Stop. Yeah.
Achia hapo. Atakwambia hivyo akicheka. Ati mnafanyaga aje? Achia hapo. You've lost. Just know you're pushing things that are not supposed to be there. Like you're thinking from a different dimension from that person. You are coming from a good place. You want good for them, but they know what you're asking them is not going to work for them.
Okay.
We need to have acceptance of that.
Yeah.
Una mic.
Wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Mikaoch.
Email yako. Ladies and gentlemen, it's another Friday. Unajua last week aliyedanganya hapa kituambia last week ulikula pilau peke yako.
Enyewe Mika, did you au kufuturu?
No, I think internet.
Unasikia ati
Na
connection.
picha tu ndio tuliona. Uliona picha akitoka kwa hao
Mande. Anyway, it's a trying time, but I want to thank Ruth for joining us. Thank you for coming to us again, and thank you for giving us your time and also getting more feedback and coming back to continue the conversation and giving it more meaning. We thank you for that. Thank you for the listeners. Thank you for the contributors, as in it's you guys who keep us here, and thank you for joining and having this conversation. As we all know, conversations take different tangents. They are so long, hatuwezi maliza in these 3 hours, but we really, really appreciate you spending your Friday evening with us. The weather is getting nice. If you're traveling in America, good luck, and amka mapema. But all in all, enjoy the good weather, enjoy your families, your friends, and everybody that you care for, and see you next weekend. Bye-bye.
Asante sana Mika Och.
Cecile.
And yes, thanks to our special guest hostess. Yani, she has broken this thing down. And let's see what type of feedback we'll get. We got some very, very interesting feedback. I'm really interested to see what the feedback on this show is going to be, the comments, where maybe the holes or the gaps that maybe we didn't see in prepping for this show that our audience may be curious of. And I'm sure there's those who are going to say we didn't twist it a certain way and certain things. But,
There's no for twisting.
But you know, because
But you never know.
adding on the other aspects. You remember there were different classes, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So adding on the different aspects. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to come and hit us up with. But it is what it is. But overall, there's I left this show today much more educated about the move home and the things that we take for granted when we go on vacation versus now when you're coming to assimilate. The very, very big difference. And mentality check is key. With that said, Asanteni, see you guys next week. Be safe and let's enjoy the weather as it gets better. Pamoja. I will see you.
Yeah.
Ruth.
I mean, this has been an honor. I think I've been part of this show as a co-host, yeah, not as a guest, and to come back to back, that's been a pleasure. To
Very
say.
special.
Never happened.
Actually, it's never
I don't think it has ever
Never
happened.
happened.
Yes.
Omenye oguo.
Yeah.
Ngozizia ningo tabia.
Ateke?
How.
Okay.
I appreciate that, and to the audience, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have been amazing. I've loved the questions you've sent, your reflections. As I say, the topic is enduring because we live here. We always want to go back home. We want to know what happens. As I said, for me, it was more testing waters, and I think I would do this severally. I mean, retirement is not too far away. So I don't know, and I also don't know where I want to retire. So there's that. So who knows? Maybe by the time I get to that point, I will have decided. And maybe this short stint in Kenya would have prepared me. Because as I said, I don't think somebody telling me and me actually being in Kenya to live and experience it would have, that two different things. You can tell me everything and I'll hear you, but the experience still hits very, very different, right? And to my family members who lived with me and we had great times, but I know you guys tolerated me. Some aspects of me. Thank you so much. I will tell you, I think every member of my family has watched this show. I'm sure they said, actually my mom yesterday was like, so tunarudi show kesho. I'm like, oh, unajua. Like nisikilize ile ingine mpaka mwisho, so I know narudi. I was like, oh wow. So I hope I've made you guys proud and given an honest reflection of my time with you.
Wow.
Thank
Ruth.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't even know how much I can thank you. In the preparation of this show, I've been putting you under a lot of pressure. My apologies for that.
No problem,
Yeah.
Ali. Welcome.
My apologies for that. But one thing that we've come to appreciate on the OneMic Show is experience. We are very good at researching. We can go and research and see what someone said, but there is nothing that comes close to someone who has experience. And I think this fresh experience, some people felt like, oh, she's not been there for 10 years, so she doesn't really know. I'm like, this fresh experience is actually the most raw, the most important experience, because this first year is what makes or break people. I think a lot of people who come back usually come back within that time window, like within maybe the 2-3 year time window. So I think this is very important. Not that if we ever move back, we're not gonna get like different experiences,
Right.
but there's certain things that we now understand. We know to expect this. So when it comes at us, it doesn't come in as a shock. So let's go in and like find our new shocks. Rather than find the shocks that are well known. It's kind of like when like whenever I advise people on their finances, I tell them, please make sure you make a new mistake. Like even when I'm talking to my nephews, my nieces, my younger cousins, I'm like, this is the mistake that I made and several of us made. So do not try to make the same mistake when you still have so many other mistakes that you can make and make use of them. So this ones that we made was for you guys not to make the same mistake. So I think it's the same thing, like if there's certain things that you need to prepare for, anything that you need to plan for, that's good. Not that you're not gonna go and experience like something different, but at least it's gonna soften the blow than if you just go in naked. There was a very good comment that came here, and I'm not sure that it was from Masha or who, but like even deportation requires a plan. If you're especially in this Trump age, hauna makaratasi, you must always be prepared.
Yeah.
Like a Boy Scout, you must always be prepared. Like know that in case something happens to me, this and this and this needs to happen. So Ruth, thank you so much. We're hoping to have like Paul Waithaka next week, who's gonna give a very opposite perspective.
Cricket, I'm
'Cause
hearing from
he
that
went
guy.
to Kenya, he stayed here for 20 years, went back to Kenya for 10 years, and he was like, nah, I cannot do this anymore. And he seems very happy to be back in the US. So Paul, we're gonna contact you, and hopefully we'll have you on from Boston on Zoom next week. So
Oh, he's not coming?
so putting you on the spot. You remember he was telling us to send him dollars. So I think maybe if we send him dollars, then he
Tabia za
might come.
Wakenya, tabia
Yeah.
za Wakenya.
Wewe
Yeah.
ushapigwa nini za Nairobi?
Yeah, then he might come. Maybe he's on tabia za Nairobi. But yeah, but thank you so much. So we also, like there's other parts that have come out as very important. Remote work, healthcare, which we did not get to touch on. There's also schools for families that are moving there with kids. I think that's also very important, and we'll try to cover all that. We'll also schedule for Professor Zeleza, who has a very unique perspective. He's a Malawian, has extensively lived in Kenya.
Yeah, he's studied and worked in Kenya
Yes.
in 3 different aspects: as a student, as a working professional, and as a VC of USIU.
As a VC of USIU.
Yes.
Yes, so very
Allah.
unique perspective, and he's a professor currently at Howard
Howard,
University.
yeah.
So I think he will bring in a very fresh perspective,
Yeah.
and challenge, like some of the narratives we have and how we think, because he's
The
researched
scholar.
this topic,
Yeah.
and he's looked at it in different dimensions, from different countries, from different perspectives. So I think that will also be good.
Is there material we can read?
Oh yeah, he
Yes,
has a book.
he has a book.
He has a book on this topic. I
Yes.
think he has several books on this topic, but I
Yes.
think there is one particular one that he published 2 years ago.
Yes.
Or a year and a half ago.
So
that
I
you
think
should
if we're
read.
able to read the book
Yes.
before the episode,
Yes.
that will be bueno.
Yeah.
Yes, na kwa hayo machache, yeyote ambaye anataka kulipigia simu, nambari yangu ya ukweli bado ni ile ile 1-800 mteule. Operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Kwaherini.
I want to read some pillars I was given by one faithful listener. 8 pillars of life of overall well-being and overall health. But this one will pertain to 254. And I think we agreed on this one. Mental health. Mental well-being and health. Emotional, physical, spiritual, social, environmental, occupational, financial. Remember, financial is number 8. If mentally you're not sour here, it doesn't matter how much money you have.
Yeah.
It doesn't. If mentally umadhogodhanio, outene jago nego there. Aiden, daddy loves you. Jerry, daddy loves you. Nemo, good game. Daddy loves you. And by the way, Nemo told me to tell you guys hello. Nye wote.
Oh.
Yeah. Ati Uncle Mosh, Uncle Ali,
Nice one.
Uncle Mika.
We love you, Nemo.
Tell her we love her back and hello
we
to
love
her.
you, Nemo.
Nemo, I have sambaza your message.
Yeah.
Until next week, be blessed.
Mashalili anasema ati 1-800 sounds like AI stuff. Hey.
Hiyo utajua ujui.
Okay, asanteni sana.
Be blessed.
Next week.